Hit me one time. Hit me twice. Go! Ah! Oh!
That's rather nice.
Oil and grime, poison sludge, diesel clouds and noxious muck. Slime beneath me, slime up above. Ooh, you love my toxic love. I see the world and all the creatures in it. I suck 'em dry and spit 'em out like spinach. 'Cause greedy human beings will always lend a hand with the destruction of this worthless jungle land. And what a beautiful machine they have provided to slice apart the doom with my sweet breath to guide it. Filthy ground, acid rain, pouring down like egg chow mein. Slime beneath me, slime up above. Ooh, you love my toxic love.
Happy Halloween 2024. We made it, guys. We finally are at Halloween. Teacup Theater. Hi. Happy Halloween. Hey, Zachy. What's going on? How can a song be so villainous? Wait. If you guys are old enough to remember Fern Gully, that was the intro. It is like he's playing like Tim Curry. He's playing this just this toxic waste and wants to get rid of like the rainforest and all that shit. And his song is so damn sexy. It's like, why is this for children? But it's iconic. I love it. So on tonight, the smoke monster. Yeah, I didn't. Hexus. Oh, it's fine. It's early 90s cartoon. Fern Gully. It's very good. Robin Williams, hilarious. He actually you get to hear him rap. My name is Betty. Anyway. So this is kind of gonna be like an experiment because I hope this won't get me like shut down. But I want to watch this horror documentary called Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue. It's really good. It talks about the history of horror cinema throughout the years. I mean, this came out in 2009. Oh, Jesus, Saki. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Still a good movie. You should still watch it. So it's not like crazy up to date, but I like the people that they bring on. They bring in all the best of the biz, talking about their horror films. So I'm hoping, because it's going to share movie images and stuff. Let's see how it goes. Let's see. And we'll just watch it, hang out, and chat, and whatever you guys got going on, please be safe. And let's go. Nightmares in red, white, and blue. Ah. Got me already.
In 1910, the New York film studio of Thomas Edison created an adaptation of Mary Shelley's Gothic novel, Frankenstein.
Hello, outdoor loser. You are just in time. You watched Scream a few hours ago. Nice. I was just watching Christine. I didn't finish it, but we were like at like the nitty-gritty. But good. You got your Scream on. Let's watch some more.
The film was a commercial failure. It would be 20 years before the rise of the American horror film.
Just finished 1408. Nice, Mad Cracker, Pornography. I feel like I know what that is, but I need to look it up just in case.
Between 2003 and 2008,
Oh, yes.
135 horror titles grossed nearly $3 billion at the box office. Hundreds more were produced for home video, proving that the genre
Whoa, okay,
still
no,
has
oh no,
plenty
boobies.
of lifeblood.
Oh no! Shit! Can I do this? Oh no! Oh no! Oh, ice con que trouble. Okay. Okay. I don't want to get in trouble, guys. Oh, shit. Okay, I could do this. I'll just have Mr. Crane here. Breeds? No, I don't know what breeds are. Nothing to see here. Man, no, this is a family show. Oh, we're not doing the Sarah Boone trial anymore. Hello. Let me fix that. And it's not the worst thing I've played on my channel. I mean, if you guys saw, oh fuck. God, I'm drawing a blank. Jordan's movie. I can't remember the fucking name of it. Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna keep going, and the crane. Yeah, look over there. Let's try this, and I will use my mascot, the crane. We'll see how this. If I get shut down, I'm out. I guess. Have a good night.
And prompting some to wonder why American viewers are so obsessed with violence. How did we get here?
If a horror film is cutting off people's thumbs and gouging their eyes out, I guess that's a certain kind of horror film, but it's certainly not the kind of horror film that interests me.
The appeal of horror movies has always been about confronting death, and in their various ways, these movies, help us cope with that, and that's one of the reasons that this has been such a long-lived genre, even from literary times on.
Fear is probably the most powerful emotion we all feel as humans. We're all afraid of death and loss of a loved one, loss of identity. All the things that you see in the movie, we're all afraid of.
In my mind, what makes a good horror movie is something that stays with you after the credits go and you're in the car and you're driving home, and that next morning when you wake up.
If you meet all the people who make horror films, you discover they are very nonviolent, they're politically active and knowledgeable and anti-war. They have opened themselves up to all of these possibilities, and it's the people who repress them who are the ones you have to look out for.
That's true, man. That's true. Interesting. And what's funny? Like, I love that, like, horror still to this day gets shunned by the Oscars and all the awards. I think, like, what, only 6 were nominated for Best Picture? Only 6. Ever. Actually, Django Unchained is the scariest horror film I've seen. I mean, it is pretty scary. but still badass at the same time. Anywho, but yeah, it's just, it's so unfair. And how many people, actors, writers, producers, directors, started out in horror? That's where a lot of people, you know, get their start, because they're cheap. Because they were cheap to make, and they make lots of money. Oh yeah, VHS, totally. There's like 10 of them.
Affinity towards the great universal monsters. Not sure where that came from, other than probably being a boy who felt like he was
My favorite is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
not particularly good looking and felt like a freak.
I love the monsters. I mean, that goes back to those days at the RKO Castle Hill, when even though Frankie was bothering me a little bit there, I still sympathized with him, and I've always sympathized with the monsters.
Evolution. Ah, I love the shit.
At the dawn of the 20th century, most Americans knew by heart Thomas Jefferson's stirring words from the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator.
Hello, Donde. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Happy Halloween. All men are born equal, but the cream rises to the top. Jesus Christ, I can still... Gotta get these ragtime songs out of my damn head, guys. This is bad.
With certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. From the beginning, Hollywood filmmakers were skeptical. Hard truths quickly found their way into the national...
Nicolas Cage is always needed, and I'm glad that he has finally made it and has played Count Dracula.
Cinema. The Great War in Europe reinforced the nation's identity as a crusader for freedom. While the old world suffered, America thrived. But the new world had its own monsters, waiting in the shadows.
Going all the way back to the 20s, the horror movies of the silent era with Lon Chaney, there was a lot of kind of twisted
Daddy
people.
Chaney.
The monster was just a mutilated person. When people came back from World War I, they came back without limbs. They came back in somewhat living pieces.
The Volstead Act gets enacted in 1919. They can't drink.
Outdoor Loser, I know what you did last summer. It made me not sleep for 2 days back in 97. It was pretty scary. Honestly, I used to be very terrified of horror films, like growing up as a kid and a teenager. It wasn't until I was like 19. I streamed it last year. This show on, it was like Bravo or something. 100 Most Scary Movie Moments came out. It was like the early 2000s, like maybe like 2005, I'm thinking. But it showed like all these like moments in horror, and they didn't just do like just the gore or the, like they were picking really great, like I got to learn so much about horror cinema, and like they were showing great black and white ones and ones that are like from other countries, and it just like for some reason that just like snapped something in me, and all of a sudden I was obsessed with horror movies. It's really ridiculous. I was only 14, 97. I was in 7th grade in 97. Yes, a lot of Hammer. Oh, the Hammer film reviews. I like, if does anyone follow Maniacal Cinephile? He's hilarious. And Dead Meat, of course.
Lost arms, legs, eyes, other body parts. And so there is this both attraction and a repulsion that they experience in America.
Lon Chaney was America's first horror movie star. The monsters he portrayed were ordinary men, turned outwardly monstrous by cruel fate, and turned inwardly monstrous by the cruelty of men.
He's unaccepted by the general public. He's on the fringe, and yet he's the hero. You're rooting for him, no matter how evil he is. I love that moment in Phantom of the Opera where the crowd has got him cornered by the river, and he turns to them and he raises his hand like he's got something in his hand to throw at them. And they recoil, and then he opens his hand and he's got nothing in his hand. And then they jump on him and beat him to death, you know. But I just love that moment when he opens his hand, and not only does he open his hand, the look on his face, like, haha, you know, I fooled you, you know.
Chaney's outsider represented the dark side of American life. Fears realized on October 24th, 1929. In the midst of the Great Depression, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt promised to save the American dream, saying, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself."
What kind of fear?
The horror films that influenced me the most were not the classic American horror films.
Roll camera and begin.
They were the German silent expressionist films of the 1920s. I think back specifically to The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Nosferatu, which I thought were true classics.
Many of Hollywood's earliest filmmakers were immigrants from Europe. They brought mythic monsters from the old world to new shores.
I mean, that is still fucking scary, in my opinion. Like, no CGI can do that. Ugh. Ooh. Like, even if people don't know, like, who that is, like, they've at least seen an image of it. And it's just like, God damn it.
We people of the mountains believe
No.
that the castle there vampires.
Dracula initially was sold first as a love story and as a horror film. But I believe one of the original...
I just also recently watched Dracula Dead and Loving It. It's a Mel Brooks movie. If you guys haven't seen that, oh God, please. It's top tier.
Advertising taglines was the strangest love story ever told. And so they don't mention what's strange is that the main lover is a Nosferatu, undead.
You are too late. My blood now flows through her veins. She will live through the centuries to come, as I have lived.
It was the one that really established the idea, I think, of horror films.
Universal followed up with a new version of Frankenstein.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Yes, Mad Cracker. Leslie Nielsen. Every time I think of his name, for some reason I always want to go to like Liam Neeson, which is terrible. But yes, Leslie Nielsen. It's funny because he was such a big guy in comedy, like Airplane and fucking he started like doing serious stuff, which is like crazy. Rama Hood, Men in Tights, awesome. I do love some of those Mel Brooks movies for sure. But I feel like, I don't know what you guys, if those of you who like horror or really like horror or just kind of like whatever about it, but like, hi Octopushy, if you're like really like, what about them like intrigue? Because like for me, and what really connected, excuse me, I don't know if they talk about it in this documentary, but a lot of people who felt like outsiders or not feel like that they fit in would sympathize with some of the monsters. Like when you think about like Frankenstein, he was just created, and he doesn't know what he's doing. He's born that day, and people just misunderstood him. Didn't give him a chance. Yeah, a good healthy blend is good. I'm more of like I like the slow burns. Frankenstein, it is like it's such a tragedy. Because this poor monster and calling him a monster is horrible. And he doesn't even have a name. Frankenstein's monster. That's degrading. Anyway. Young Frankenstein is also very, very good.
It really is and still is to this day the Gothic thing that I always find myself drawn to. The period somehow seemed simpler and classier, the way people dressed, the way people spoke.
Like heaven being with you again.
Heaven wasn't so far away all the time,
And yet there was this, like the Jekyll and Hyde story. There's this other side underneath that you wanted to get to, and that was, particularly for a boy, far more interesting, that you could get this beautiful lady and then somehow you'd screw it up because you were really a monster inside.
Free at last! Suddenly I realized the power.
Oh yeah, Zachy, I agree. Like when they're like isolating, like yeah, you feel like you are, like your example with Ridley Scott's Alien, you feel like you're on that damn ship. And it just takes its time. It builds the pressure, and then the scene with the face hugger, the new one came out. Didn't like the cast, like they didn't get to rehearse the scene. They had to do it in one take, and it was also the first time they saw the prosthetic, the little puppet that they used. But that's what I heard. Something I heard like a long time ago, but I've always thought that was amazing. Traumatizing, but amazing. But yeah, a good slow burn. I like those. And isn't it like interesting that when you think of the alien and like the face, like everything is like phallic shaped and something that could impregnate anyone? That's so intrusive. That's so just like that's so violating.
What I held, the power to rule, to make the world grovel at my feet.
Essentially, there are two kinds of horror movies. One is, it's all about where evil is, the location of it. So we can imagine ourselves around a campfire, and the wise man or whoever is talking to us about the location of evil, and he says the evil is out there in the dark. It's beyond the woods, it's the other tribe. It's the people that don't look like us, that don't speak like us. Mm-hmm. And that's the external evil, that's the other. People aren't like us. But the other location of evil, same setting.
Yeah, and to have the hero a woman, unspeak of.
Campfire and the shaman, the wise man says, actually evil is right in here. It's in our own human hearts. That particular story is a harder one to tell. It's easier to talk about the other. It's harder to say, I have met the enemy and he is us. We are the enemy.
Mr. Rainsford, God made some men poets, some he made kings, some beggars. Me he made a hunter.
During the 1930s, there was all the turmoil in Europe, the rise of Nazism. There was various problems that different countries were obviously having in establishing, okay, who's going to be in charge? What kind of forces are they going to?
Yeah, and it's great. And the way to like people who got to express like their feelings, like while certain shit like this was going on, they did that in horror films. It's just like a different way of like looking at things. And I don't know, like another like genre it's like that I like is my husband and I bring it up all the time when we used to have a movie podcast. Who is the monster and who is the man? That's my favorite. It's when you have to decide who is the real villain. Those really make me like not like rack my brain, but it just blows my mind. Horror's great. I just don't like the slasher stuff. I understand. Yeah, I'm not like a huge like gore person. I mean, I don't mind it as much anymore. I think I'm just kind of like desensitized to it, and I don't know. I guess just the education that I received and like, and also like watching all these documentaries really helped me, like, especially when it came to like special effects and makeup and stuff like that. Like after looking at it from like that side, I'm like, huh, that's art. It sounds so creepy to say, I guess. I don't know, but I just don't. I see it as, yeah, it's someone's project. It's their baby. That's why I fucking hate CGI.
Unleash.
Ladies and gentlemen, look at Kong.
Kong.
The eighth wonder of the world.
Legend has it that Adolf Hitler's favorite film was King Kong.
We have to watch out for these people who are trying to consolidate and manipulate power and manipulate us.
In 1934, the Hollywood Production Code Administration decreed that all movie monsters must be destroyed by the end of every film, regardless of their motives.
The monster in Frankenstein.
I agree, Zachy, with all that. Great protagonist, human, yeah, strong but human. We were all the villains. We were the villains the whole time, Kong.
Note.
How dare we take someone from their born country and take them over back to shitty America? I don't think, that's never been done before, right? Ever?
He was just as frightening and just as terrible as the other monsters, but there was a scene where he's at a little pond with a little girl, and you expect him to kill the little girl.
Who are you? I'm Maria.
I'm Maria.
Will you play with me?
Instead, he is very friendly and affectionate to the little girl. And I remember when I first saw that, I was really surprised, and I would assume the audience was surprised too.
The Frankenstein story in and of itself was fascinating, but Bride of Frankenstein, what James Whale did, the empathy that you had for the monster in that, and the fact that he wanted, to love Elsa Lanchester at the end.
Friend?
As a very, very young kid, that had a really strong impression on me, trying to find that other freak that doesn't want you either. And then we all die.
Get away from that fever! You'll blow us all to atoms! We belong dead.
Even then, the most terrifying movie monsters were human beings.
The Black Cat is a rather unique movie in horror movie history because it's really the only one that has a sense of evil to it.
Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi star as two European soldiers engaged in a deadly grudge match.
You killed her as I am about to kill you.
God, that duel is like getting Betty Davis and Joan Crawford together. Nice. Hey, human ham cubes. Is Lance... That's a good question. Let me look that up. Who's narrating?
With a young American couple caught in the middle.
I want to know too.
Off-screen, Americans would soon find themselves in a similar situation. The unquiet ghosts of World War I were about to break loose.
We shall play a little game, Venus.
The game of death, if you like. But under any circumstances, we shall have to wait until these people are gone, until we are alone.
Truly, unquestionably, the biggest evil that I know about in recent memory was the Holocaust. There's a documentary on the GIs who got over there and they were taking pictures of some of the survivors and some of the dead bodies. Oh, my God. And that was an industry. That was an industry that was set up to kill.
You are right. Human ham cubes. You are exactly right. Who the narrator is, I can't say his name properly, Lance Henriksen. There we go. Yeah. Speaking of aliens.
It was industrialized murder. That was, it was staggering. Staggering to see.
And the fact that they were just showing that shit, like on like the news, like is like crazy. Just thinking of what we just saw. Like, they would be able to do that nowadays. Which reminds me, you made a point last stream, which I agree with. Ooh, that the Terminator felt more like a horror film. Judgment Day is more like an action film. Probably why I prefer the first. Yeah. It makes sense. And which is like crazy. Like, why do I like the second one? I think I like the second one more because I was a little old. I was like older, but I was just a little more conscious at that time, and seeing the second one was, and Eddie Furlong, I mean, who didn't have a fucking crush on him back then, right? But it's just the one that I remember the most. Terminator is still good, and I definitely agree. It's a horror film in my book.
Set against the reality of genocide, cinematic monsters became less terrifying.
The Universal pictures, which are beloved by a certain generation, do really fall into two categories. The ones in the 30s, which were done relatively sincerely for the first time, and the ones in the 40s, which were basically trading on what had been done earlier in the 30s and sort of jiving it up a little for the wartime audience.
In 1942, the Invisible Man became the Invisible Agent.
Circle around a minute. Planes are going to bomb New York. I can't stop them, but I bet I can slow them down.
What? Yeah.
As the tone of monster movies softened, the target audience changed.
Let me tell you what made me change my
mind. Oh no, Disney!
A lot of, I think, the childhood attraction to horror movies starts with Disney, because the scares were always a huge part of what was appealing about Disney movies.
Pinocchio! Hear that beetle talk?
Don't get me, Disney.
You'd think something was gonna happen to him.
Don't get me, Disney. Don't.
But then when you get to a picture like Pinocchio, which has this great transformation sequence in it, I mean, as good as any werewolf movie transformation I've ever
that's
seen.
horrible.
He turns into a donkey. That's a pretty hairy stuff for kids.
I was always fucking terrified of Pinocchio. Even the freaking ride at Disneyland is terrifying. My mom would still make me ride it. They need to make a Terminator film with a modest budget to go back to. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. I broke my brain trying to figure out how they did the special effects. I don't care for action films, Judgment Day. Nice. Terrifying, terrifying. This is a transformation scene. This is like they said, it's like seeing someone turn into like a werewolf, but they're turning into a fucking scary donkey. Oh my god. You know what's interesting? No Country for Old Men. I will always remember that year that movie came out because there was this great divide in this world. It's called You Are Either No Country for Old Men or There Will Be Blood. That year, just with in my, I guess, circle of friends and whatever, it was always those two battling it out. Which one's better? Which one's this? Which one's that? Did you see Beetlejuice? I have not. I have not seen it. I do want to see it, Johnny Utah. Thank you for being here. Definitely is on the list when it comes out to stream. I personally am There Will Be Blood fan. And if I had to choose between the two, that's just me. I've always been a There Will Be Blood. It would be a great musical. Right? Not like, right? Just There Will Be Blood, all that shit. My favorite transformation scene is Selena Kyle. Yes. Oh yeah, I forgot I'm not married.
And I think a lot of kids find that they like that kind of stuff, and other kids find that they don't. But the ones who really enjoy that, step up to horror movies.
And damn, it scared the shit out of me. Made sense why I didn't like horror films till I was an adult. I went to No Country for Old Men with my friend, and it was so suspenseful. Oh my god, that's crazy! I'm not saying that No Country for Old Men is not good. It was just like that year when those two films came out, it was just like, it was like the Wild Wild West out there. Not really. But that's funny. That's why you gotta make sure, if this is gonna be a movie you want to sit your ass on, go pee before. Don't drink anything, don't do anything. That's interesting. I'm not sure. Because what's worse? That it was part of the story, or that Disney thought of doing it?
Well, I love the Wolfman, of course. I mean, what kid doesn't love the Wolfman? I mean, he's a perpetual adolescent. He gets hairy, and he can't control himself. It's like, I mean, he's always popular, the Wolfman.
I know Kurt Siodmak.
Such a sympathetic character, and it's funny because like Lon Chaney, he has this scary face, even when he's like normal, no makeup, whatever. Like, he's a menacing looking guy. But when you look at Lon Chaney Jr., he has the most sympathetic face ever. He just looks like a lost little boy. And he was really good at that. That's why the Wolfman was perfect for him.
It's he had very strong feelings about the war. He fled Germany due to his Jewish background. And he was the one that came up with the idea of the Wolfman along the lines of a Greek tragedy. Here is a person cursed by fate who then has to try to deal with it.
Oh, I'm sick of the whole thing. I'm going to get out of here.
Whoever is bitten by a werewolf and lives becomes a werewolf himself.
Lon Chaney Jr., he was just such a pitiable fellow. He looked so sad and tragic. There's something about his whole persona.
See, I'm right.
It just looked terribly unhappy. I grew up in a period where being Jewish was unusual. I mean, most people weren't. And then he went through the whole war as a kid, hearing that these people wanted to come over and kill you. And they wanted to kill everybody that was Jewish. So you did feel like an outsider.
During and after the war, American cinema took on a darker, more somber tone.
Cat people.
Lower budget horror films like the RKO productions of Val Lewton adopted a minimal.
This has been on my list for so long, Cat People. I just haven't gone around to it yet.
Style for economic and artistic reasons. Lewton believed that in darkness, audiences would imagine their own worst fears.
One thing I really liked about the original Cat People was that it's all about repression.
Oh my god. Hamcube. What? Johnny, the original Pinocchio story is fucked. Pinocchio smashes Jiminy Cricket with a mallet and the village hangs Pinocchio. Oh my god! I have never ever heard that. Because like we on this channel we sometimes watch fairy tale theater, and we watched a very somewhat popular episode. Pee Wee Herman, the actor, I can't think of his name right now, played Pinocchio. And that was pretty dark too, but holy shit. Yeah, Disney took some liberties. They had some notes. At least I guess they did that. Oh my god. Oh my god.
You know,
I was right. That Pinocchio is the most scariest shit ever.
it's about repressed sexuality.
Paul Rubens, thank
it's
you.
about turning into an animal when you release that sexual desire.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know that from Into the Woods. Yeah. One of them, like, cuts a toe. One of them, like, slices off a heel. And then they ended up, like, getting pecked by birds and were blind for the rest of their lives. And Cinderella still kind of pitied them. Honestly, if you like scary movies, Zachy, you should watch. If you're talking about the Disney original that you haven't seen, go watch it. It's terrifying. No.
And it's about the repression of fear and those things. I didn't know consciously what I was watching at the time. I just knew I was watching a scary movie.
Fuck, this is terrifying.
One of the scariest sequences
Leopard Man.
of all time, it's in The Leopard Man, where the little girl is sent on her own to go to the grocery store.
They'll be here if we need
Mama
them.
sends her off, and we know that there is an escaped panther somewhere in the neighborhood.
Oh,
and
God.
she's running, and she goes home to Mama and knocks on the door and demands to be let in.
This is brilliant. This we watch it. We will watch it. Don't worry. Because so many like some horror films, they show you everything in the kitchen sink, and then it gets to a point like you kind of feel like desensitized to the stuff. But when it comes to the horror that we can't see, that to me is way more scary than seeing anyone get chopped up and whatever.
Her mom, feeling no sense of urgency, not knowing about the panther, waits to let her in.
He's coming! He's coming closer!
Like, fuck!
Wait, Teresa! Your mother is here! Your mother will let you...
Too late!
And then suddenly we see blood coming under the door. We know that that girl is being torn to shreds on the other side.
That's fucking terrifying! Because, like, you're left to your imagination of what, you know, like, what's going to scare you most? The fact that you imagine something so heinous, or just, I don't know.
That door. That is an absolutely chilling moment, an unforgettable bit
Yes,
of horror.
Bad
One
Mother.
of the things I think is really great about the Val Lewton films is that there is a psychological component to them.
Yes.
The seventh victim is basically about a woman who is obsessed with death, meets a woman who hasn't lived but wants to live.
Who are you?
I also enjoy, which is, I feel like, is somewhat of a, I don't know, it's not like a sister genre, but like film noir that has like the scary moment of like, these are real people, and it's so, everything is like so dark and black and white, and everything is like, there's so much symbolism in everything that you see. It always got me. Like, I actually took a class when I started out in college. I was like, hey, this film noir no, it wasn't a film noir. It was like a film class, like something. And it was on a Saturday morning. I loved that damn class so much, I went every Saturday. That's nuts for someone who's like 19.
Dichotomy between the woman who has had enough of life and wants to die, and the one who hasn't experienced life and wants to live.
Well, Saving Private Ryan, that has like one of the most scariest openings ever.
And that's a major theme in that movie. trying to put the pieces together and figure out, what is my place? Do I have a place in the world, or should I just go into a room with...
Uh-oh, beetle bug. Don't go driving. You're not too late. We haven't been going that long. Might be a few sips of the limit. Well, don't drive. Yes, Blade Runner is technically a horror film, but yeah, it's not a bad film.
The noose and hang myself.
I've always wanted to die. Always. I'm afraid. And I'm tired of being afraid. Of waiting. Why wait?
Human interaction is the source.
Oh, good. Did someone say dichotomy? Yes. Not a weird dichotomy.
Source of horror and fear and tension. You know, it's a natural part of it, and just dealing with the world at large.
And also, sorry, I don't know how it is with younger people at this point when it comes to films and all that. Do they still watch any black and whites and all that stuff? I'm just wondering, because when you watch them, you're gonna see a lot of things that are quite similar to the ones that we know, because they're so heavily influenced, because they're really amazing. So I don't know. No, we are not at Saw yet. We are still in the black and white horror, phase. So don't worry, we're not there yet. Torture porn is not coming up probably until the end of this, because this came out in 2009.
As a human being, taking on responsibility.
And just because I say torture porn doesn't mean, I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. That's just I feel like that's just what it's called. That's just its title. So the key to that live stream is in the back.
Responsibility as a citizen of the world is a big deal.
Santa Rosa, California.
In 1943, Alfred Hitchcock placed this existential fear in small-town America, in shadow of a doubt.
The Town with a Secret is kind of a staple of film noir, and the idea that things aren't quite what they seem is, it's a basic tenet of horror movies. And I've always been fascinated by, what's behind the door and what's behind the picket fence, what's really going on.
Uncle Charlie appears to be the classic American success story, the Horatio Alger myth of the self-made man.
Who are you?
Charlie.
But Uncle Charlie is not what he seems.
Do you know if you ripped the fronts off houses, you'd find swine? The world's a hell. What does it matter what happens in it?
Yo.
I remember walking home from school one day, and some little girl said to me, the bomb could go off right now, and we'd all be dead in a second.
Jesus.
That was kind of news to me. I'd never really looked at it that way. And I do think that the kids of my era did grow up under the atomic fear cloud.
Hello, polynomial purebred. Blue velvet.
The first horror film I directed, although it would be more likely classified as horror science fiction, was The Day the World Ended, a 10-day black and white picture.
Rick, how much do you know about the Matsuo bomb test?
I need to.
That nobody could actually.
I need to do a rewatch. It's been a very long time. David Lynch.
Pinned down.
It is one of the first films to tackle the idea of, okay, almost everybody's wiped out. Some of the people that are left have been turned into these monster mutants.
Oh yeah, this is the era of the big bug.
What's going to happen after the end of civilization?
Unbelievable? Fantastic? But I tell you, it could happen.
This is back in the Red Scare days, atomic bomb days, and a lot of very famous science fiction movies had come out
By the cruel intruder from the...
dealing with the effects of the bomb. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, them.
The prehistoric era.
These are all creatures of the bomb, created by radiation.
When I saw Tarantula, Tarantula was only playing on Wednesday and Thursday. And so I had to get my father to take me because it was at night.
Even science was stunned. The new atomic miracle should have been mankind's greatest boon. Instead, when such power to cause phenomenal growth proved dangerously unstable, man was confronted with his most shocking blunder.
It was so scary. I was so freaked out that I went out to the lobby and I just started to pace. And I would look in occasionally at the screen. Too scared. Leaving my father alone in the theater, watching this.
The next new subgenre of horror. God. I wish I knew. Somehow I still feel like they're playing catch up, if that makes sense. But nowadays, like, I'm like, a trailer of failure. Yes. But people just keep rebooting things, and we've seen that before. So it's just, I hope so. Like, when I think of A24, like, they come out with some really great things that feel fresh and different to me. So who knows? I hope it's good. But you know what, if not, I mean, honestly, I haven't been a huge superhero horror. Isn't Batman kind of like that? I don't know. Because he's not like he's a vigilante. Just remake old. Yeah, just remake Old Boy again. People will be fine. Yeah. I refuse to watch the remake of Old Boy, by the way.
This giant spider movie by himself, for which he never forgave me, I don't think. The one that I remember the most was Them, because it was about giant ants, and they made a noise that was not unlike the crickets in the back of my house. I had nightmares for weeks.
We may be witnesses to a biblical prophecy come true. And there shall be destruction and darkness come up in creation. And the beast shall reign over the earth.
Fantastic beyond comprehension.
Gripping beyond compare.
Astounding beyond belief.
The mightiest...
Yeah, I mean, I've seen parts of the remake. I won't lie, but Batman versus Dracula, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hi, Chatterbait Billy. Yeah, you can't... yeah, the original. Whew, I wasn't ready.
Monster of them all.
It's no good shooting, Dale. The bullets pass through it just like X-rays.
Probably the movie that scared me the most in my life was The Creature with the Atom Brain.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Okay, good. I'm glad Good.
I was about 6 years old. It's not a very good movie, but boy, it sure scared me.
I promise to see you die, and I will.
Oh.
There's a lot of movies that have different valuations depending on how they actually affected you.
The giant leashes! The Killer Shrew. See, I also know some good black and white horror films from being obsessed with Mystery Science Theater 3000. That was a big help. Viral effects. What about the creature from the Cornville Woods? I dig it. Man, could you, like, such a really good, like, horror film, could just, like, you can even do, like, a Blair Witch Project out there, and it would be a total success.
I think people love
Killer
the movies they
shrews.
saw when they were young. They love to eat them up.
In the age of the atomic bomb, filmmakers warned viewers to keep watching the skies.
It's wrong. We finally got one.
I also watched The Thing today. John Carpenter's The Thing. This was actually playing while Gerard was in the hospital, so we were like, heck yeah, let's watch the original. The Calcium Division Monster. The Legend of Stealing.
We found a flying saucer. Come in. Close the door. Freddie, do you suppose the Pentagon could send us a revolving door?
The Thing was the first movie that really pushed my buttons.
Hi, Pat.
If you watch that movie, if you watch it now and really analyze it, they're always opening doors.
Yeah.
It's that old loud radio sound effect. Opening the door.
Anybody around here want some coffee?
And they just are opening doors, opening doors, opening doors.
That's funny.
Hi, Pat.
Opening the door.
What's the matter, Corporal? This door's locked. Attention, everybody.
Hey, voice to voice, the Bent Dink Project. I
Stay where you are
love.
and bolt your doors. Close the door, please. When you find what you're looking for, go ahead and open it.
Sooner or later, of course, you know that the Thing is going to be there, and goddamn.
Hi, you guys want any coffee? No, but come here.
It had one of the all-time great.
Oh god, the original Friday the 13th. That was your first one. Nice. Honestly, I feel like the first one is the worst. The first one is the worst. And I don't even think that like Friday the 13th is like all that great. Hot take, sorry guys. I love the remake of Friday the 13th. Yeah. Yeah. I know. Got something else that people aren't gonna like. I like the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre better than the original. Okay, I'm gonna leave.
Well, several great scare scenes, but one is when they set him on fire.
I will see myself out.
Full burn. That was great stuff.
It tells a lot about where this country was and where the world was in 19...
Just 3D. I'm not judging about the remake. I haven't seen a lot of Friday the 13th, but I do love the first film. It is. It's I don't know, like it just went through such a weird, like, why the mother? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, let's bring in Jason. And then there he is. Jason is an icon. I saw Freddy vs. Jason in fucking theaters.
1951. And more so than I think a lot of, quote, mainstream pictures. The political situation of the time was such that there were very few, quote, liberal science fiction movies. Certainly, you would call it Came from Outer Space would be a liberal science fiction movie because the aliens, they just want to...
Okay, I'm going to keep playing this, but I'm going to go on mute really quick because I'm going to grab a piece or two of candy that we have for our non-existent trick-or-treaters. We've lived here for 7 years. Not once have we ever gotten a trick-or-treater. Each year my husband's like, hey, maybe this will be the year. Maybe this... He says that just so he can get some candy. That's what he does. But BRB.
They get home and they're not really bad and they've been misunderstood.
They promoted the individual, the smart, scientific, versus the community that's a little bit behind the times, is not accepting of the aliens.
But that wasn't really very popular. I mean, it was much easier and more spectacular to do aliens who really were out to get us.
In Invaders from Mars, conservative forces knew just how to deal with anyone that looked different.
You gotta hit them right in the puss with the grenades if you want to stop them, Major. Nothing works but blowing them apart. Here they come!
And now, fought with the terrible weapons of super science, menacing all mankind and every creature on Earth, comes the War of the Worlds.
They come from another world, spawned in the light.
By the second half of the decade, alien invaders had learned to be more subtle.
Stop! Will you tell these fools I'm not crazy?
From city to city, an incredible hysterical panic spread.
I remember going to see it at the Coliseum Theater on 101st Street. Believe it or not, it was the second feature on a double bill, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
No, you've got to get out of here, please.
I think I sat through that picture twice because it was so good.
What time is it?
7:45. Yeah, I know. It's too early to be so busy.
What are they doing here?
But it was interesting that people could authentically read it as a metaphor, either for individuality, here's the conformists of the 50s who are trying to tell everybody what to think, what to feel, how to act, or a metaphor for communist takeover. Here are these soulless, unfeeling people who want to have an ideal future by eliminating what's really human about us, trying to take away our freedoms. There were very real anxieties of the time. Are the other side crazy and insane? If they really have no emotions, what would stop them from, breaking a treaty, pushing the button, doing the unthinkable?
Filmmakers continue to target the fears of the rising generation.
Every one of you watching this screen, look out. Because soon, very soon, the most horrifying monster menace ever conceived will be oozing into this theater.
All right, I'm back. I just got some Reese's. Let's see. Oh man, I'm just reading what you guys are saying. Joyride. Okay, interesting. I didn't really think, because at the time I wasn't into that kind of, so I didn't really watch X-Files.
I am William Castle, the
William,
director of the motion
boy.
picture you're about to see.
Here we go, guys. Here's the theatrics right here.
You'll be given a supernatural viewer like this, which will enable you to penetrate for the first time into the spirit world. I feel obligated to warn you that some of the sensations, some of the physical reactions,
the tingler,
which the actors on the screen will feel, will also be experienced for the first time in motion picture history by certain members of this audience.
Sorry about the rapper sound.
I have the booklet for the seat buzzers that the exhibitors were sent. And they were war surplus motors that had to be, inserted into the seats in the theater.
Yeah, sounds like Lauren would be perfect for that. Nice. Going to sing karaoke. Any requests? The Rose song? Cheating on me with the candy wrapper, yes. Sing the Rose song.
And it was quite a big deal. And there was warning, electric shock, and a lot of complicated instructions about how these things have to be worked and how the projectionist has to activate them. And it was like most theater men must have thought, I don't want to do this. I mean, this is crazy. And it was pandemonium, basically, and it was a lot of fun. And the movie was designed for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, please do not panic, but scream! Scream for your lives!
Of course, you gotta share Skittles with another guy.
The tingler is loose in this theater, and if you don't scream, it may kill you. Scream!
The successive gimmicks, I think, started to peter out after that. I mean, that was really a high point that you couldn't really top.
Good afternoon. Here we have
a quiet little motel.
All right, guys, we're getting into the Hitchcock era. Scream, Casey! I drive.
Perfectly harmless looking, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
One of the first movie loves of my life.
That score is scarier to me than Jaws. The Jaws theme. Yike. I love Psycho too. It's funny. I love Psycho, but the music really makes me uneasy. I think it's like the only one where I'm just like, I like this movie, but oh my god, I feel so uncomfortable with the music that it is playing. I guess that's the point, but it's a challenge for me because I do love it so much. I just sang The Great Predator as Lorne. Nice. Okay, Chatterbait Billy, you can see yourself out. Out. God.
Life was the movie Psycho. I saw it at the drive-in and
Yeah, you know what? Let's do a remake and do it like paint by numbers. Let's do it exact every shot, the lines, everything. Let's just go crazy, guys. Let's not change anything. Let's not hire actors that, not that they're bad actors, but they're in the, they came in through the wrong audition door or something. Grant. That's a good Halloween stream, doing some grandpa. Oh, I loved the show. I still need to finish it. But every time I want to go to watch it, I want to start it from the beginning. That's an issue that is very hard for me when it comes to like finishing shows. I still haven't even finished Once Upon a Time because I always go back to the beginning.
1961 as a kid, and in those days horror movies were thought of as kids movies, even Psycho.
What? No way.
Psycho put audiences on notice that nothing would be off limits anymore. Anyone can die at any time. And the most sympathetic character in the movie can be the most diabolical.
Yes.
Beginning of the modern horror film was Psycho, 1960. That was the turning point. Most horror films before then, not all, but most, were gothic romances. Take the Hammer films in 56, 57. They were all in castles with Dracula and Frankenstein and barons and the European aristocracy. Psycho was a whole different breed of movie. In a way, it prefigured what was going to happen in the culture.
Ah! Divas! Whatever happened to Baby Jane? So good. Yikes, she took a knife to what has she done? It's a sexy knee.
In the following years, filmmakers tried to outdo Psycho in shock value.
Hagsploitation. Hi, sweethearts. Hi, Pussy Destroyer.
Hitchcock continued to push the limits of on-screen violence in his next film, The Birds, to see just how much audiences were willing to watch.
Oh, God.
Drive-in director Herschel Gordon Lewis went even further.
I don't want to
Blood
get
Feast.
in
It's
trouble.
barely above the level of a home movie, but when it played theaters in Chicago, I mean, they closed them down, and it was.
If any of you guys are just now tuning in, as I pause on this very graphic part of the movie. If I get shut down, I love ya. Always have.
It's a big scandal because this is pornography, and it's the.
Yeah, come on. Birds. Well, no, we're past birds. We're past that stage. But why rip off Birdemic? Why? God, he's such a copycat.
Ben trails and all that. This is totally unconvincing today, but at the time it was very transgressive.
People wanted to see movies like Mondo Cane, which was a documentary all about death and grotesque rituals around the world.
Whoa.
Because it's what you couldn't see on TV and what you couldn't see in the theaters.
In this manner, they exalt the flagellation of Christ.
So you wouldn't see those at the Warner Hollywood or the Pacific Paramount or anything like that. You'd see them at the little Cracker Box Theater downtown or, on the wrong side of the tracks.
Winnie Ritual, that needs to be a short film. For sure. Yeah.
Some seasoned filmmakers competed not simply by increasing
Orgy of savage lust.
Shock value, but by increasing the production value of their films.
Johnny Utah! If Jeff Stacy was a Cenobite, he'd be called Penhead. Oh,
I was in almost continuous production at that time, making films generally on 10-day schedules for AIP.
Right?
I convinced Sam Arkoff, who was head of the money department of AIP, that the thing to do was to do one picture, 15 days, and in color, and put together the two budgets and spend somewhere around $200,000. They asked me what I wanted to do, and I said I wanted to do The Fall of the House of Usher.
Once this land was fertile. Farms.
Ooh, did anybody watch the Flanagan Fall of the House of Usher? Man, talk about like raising the bar for horror. Ugh. Children.
Bounded. Earth yielded her riches at harvest time. There were trees and plant life, flowers, fields of grain. There was great beauty here. But this was long before my time.
I identified with it emotionally because there was a torture.
I suck. I haven't seen so many films. This isn't even a film. Go on Netflix and just look up fucking Mike Flanagan. You're welcome. That is some good. I mean, he directed Dr. Sleep. If you guys were into like The Shining, he directed that. But his other films, holy shit, and his series.
Tortured individual, Vincent Price, in the center of it.
I'm going to torture you, Isabel.
He did, have like either some great love of his life that left him or betrayed him.
I'm going to make you suffer for your faithlessness to me.
And there was always that fear that, that was going to happen to you or even early girlfriends.
That's how my husband and I do foreplay.
Friends that, you had a crush on that liked somebody else, and then you could agonize over that. So there was identifying on that level.
You harlot! You are about to enter hell. Hell! The pit! And the pendulum.
I don't know why, but we just find those lines so hilarious that we just quote it on a regular basis. Jesus Christ.
I had a great affinity for Vincent Price and wanted to be the one controlling the pendulum.
Within a few years, the United States was engaged in its biggest military conflict since World War II.
Again.
As the Vietnam War escalated, the counterculture movement began to grow.
Can you look around this world and believe in the goodness of a God who rules it? Famine, pestilence, war, disease, and death. They rule this world.
There is also love and life and hope.
Very little hope, I assure you.
The Mask of the Red Death was one of the later pictures. We were already into the 1960s. The counterculture was building, and I did indeed incorporate, particularly in some of the fantasy scenes, some of the style that I later developed more fully in my LSD picture, The Trip.
Oh yeah, huge influence. Okay.
250 micrograms apiece. Is
that what I'm going to take?
Trip.
The youth generation responded by turning on, tuning in.
I know, right? I'm so good at it. I'm so good at pretending, you guys. I'm an actress.
And dropping out. But they still couldn't escape the collective nightmare.
Roger's always been left of center, and his office used to have French Revolutionary posters on the wall, and as he was nickel and diming you for making a picture for him. And a lot of that, I think, shows up in his work. The movies are subversive.
Do you wish to be saved?
Saved? No.
No.
I've come to tell you what I see.
I knew this would happen.
Okay, this is definitely like one of my top tier movies, but it's nothing new. It's amazing it's not anything revolutionary.
1968, a big budget studio horror film presented mainstream moviegoers with the death of all certainties.
There seemed to be this confluence of events that made people think, well, maybe this really is the last generation. Maybe Judgment Day is really coming. Maybe we really have gotten too far away from God.
No! Oh, God!
God is dead! Satan lives! The year is won!
Mr. Boogeyman, King of Blood, they used to call me.
In Targets, Boris Karloff realizes that traditional monster movies can't compete with the horrors of real life in 1960s America.
My kind of horror isn't horror anymore. There we are. Look at that.
Richard Nixon reassured voters that the violent few are not the majority of Americans, and urged the great silent majority to stand up and be counted.
Well,
I thought it was about revolution. We were 60s guys and thinking, in those terms, sort of pissed off that the 60s revolution didn't work.
I'm such a bad censor.
Peace and love didn't solve anything in the end. In fact, shit was looking worse. And I said, what would be a really...
Troll 2, best ever. Oh my God. If anyone ever watched Mystery Science Theater 3000, whether it be the older one or the one that Netflix renewed, the guys, the original guy, not the OG original guys, but the guys who finished the rest of the series have a program called Riff Tracks, and they take all of these, because with Mystery Science Theater, they were limited to what kind of movies they could show on TV. But these guys, Riff Tracks, they watch from like these black and white horrors to even like fucking Marvel movies. And it is hilarious. It is the only way I can ever watch any of the Twilight movies. I can't do it without their commentary.
Earth-shattering thing that would be revolutionary and that people would refuse to ignore. The dead stop staying dead. Oh, and there's one thing more. They like to eat living people.
When Night of the Living Dead came out, it was shocking. It was horrific. And it really shocked me when I first saw it. The fact that
it is shocking, but I can watch this in like little segments. Like watching the whole movie does get a little boring, in my opinion. That's why the commentary and the jokes help.
That there was a black character in it was a big deal. Today it looks like nothing, but if you realize that back then the only black people you saw in the movies were
Cinema Sins. Ooh, I know. Is it Titanic or Titanic Cinema? Titanic Cinema, I think. Those were the like other Mystery Science guys.
with Sidney Poitier in Lilies of the Field or I Spy.
Oh, good. I'm glad you are. I love this stuff so much. That's why I make a point to do a Halloween stream. I don't care if, who's here, who wants to come by, leave, whatever. I just love this stuff so much. It's like and I don't consider myself a film bro, okay?
You realize that we didn't have black people in movies much. And to have a black guy in a horror movie who...
Yeah, what was so confusing?
Ends up, being the only survivor and then senselessly getting killed.
That's insane.
Good shot. I noted it as being kind of a countercultural movie for that reason.
Okay, he's dead. Let's go get him. That's another one for the park.
What bothers me the most about a lot of traditional horror is that why do you do horror? You do it to upset the apple cart. And always at the end it sort of gets set back up again. We kill the monster, we do whatever we need to. And I didn't want to do that. In my mind, most of the power that it has relates to the time that it was made.
Yes, and that's what's so important when people see certain films and they don't understand it, but it's look at the time that it was made, what was going on at the time too. God, I just hear myself and I'm making myself sick.
All right, send the wagon through.
And the anger of that time.
Hey, Randy, light these torches over here. People in the back, way in the back.
And the disappointment of that time.
As the Vietnam War continued into the 70s, filmmaker Bob Clark offered his own form of protest in Death Dream.
Ooh, haven't seen this.
Do you know that they sent us a telegram tonight? I mean, they actually sent us a telegram telling us that you were killed.
Uh-oh. They actually said that my son was dead. I was.
That was a scary time. There was a draft, an active draft, and it was scary as shit to be up for that. I remember in college when the first draft lottery came out, what they would do would draw a number for every one of the 365 days of the year and choose an order. So if you were in the first, if your birthday was, say, January 15th, they would draw a number, and if January 15th came up and it was number 6, you were going to Vietnam. You were going into the service.
At the turn of the decade, the prevailing message of American independent cinema was, we blew it. Audiences had to be psychologically prepared for the worst.
And I remember taking a little journey down Sunset Strip when I first got to Los Angeles, and these guys with long hair were sort of selling acid on the street.
Nothing is more magical than walking on Sunset in Los Angeles.
And I went to the Whiskey and saw some rock and roll bands. It was a great time for music. Hadn't quite hit the skids as it did in 1969 with Altamont, when that sort of turned dark, and Charles Manson. As the culture changed from the 60s into the 70s, everything got harder. There's more sex, then there's more violence.
No!
There was a lot of excessive stuff going on.
The Savage Cinema is really about random violence, about unpredictability, about seeing the things you couldn't imagine around the next corner. Whether that being that murderers show up at your house one night and go on a killing spree, or that you go on a nice vacation into the desert and it turns out that there are cannibals living in that
I know, I'm not prude to it. I don't want to lose you.
desert who want the luxuries you have and want to kill the family pet and rape your daughter and do all these, absolutely horrible things.
It's crazy. What's crazy? All that blood and violence. I thought you were supposed to be the love generation.
Last house on the left was just like
what does John Carpenter say?
A strong cup of coffee in the morning and opened you right up. Wow.
Yeah. I have to say, like, Last House on the Left, that has to be, like, one of the top, like, most disturbing movies I've ever seen. Hey, YouTube, look over there.
You're gonna get yours.
Yeah, see, I can't. Okay. I'm gonna go past this. Okay, there we go.
You're attacked, we attack. That violence can be okay under certain conditions.
This is the story of a man who decided to clean up the most violent town in the world.
The Charles Bronson Death Wish films, they say, okay, you've attacked my family, you've murdered my family, you've raped my wife, now I will kill you and it is justified.
Yeah. It's disturbing, but it has an interesting message to it. It's like if you can get past the really ugly stuff, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. Death Wish is a horror movie. Great movie. Please don't boil me. Hello, Online Lobster. I would never, even though we're talking about horror films, I could never boil you.
What Last House on the Left says is that I have acted as violently as you have, my child is still dead, and now what am I left with? Mm-hmm. What these horror films do is they rip that decorum off killing. They show you the naked ugliness of violence.
To avoid fainting, keep repeating. It's only a movie.
I don't think they were necessarily social statement movies consciously. I think they couldn't help but express that era and the filmmakers and their countercultural bent regardless, because in those days, making independent
Pretty weird. Cut.
Films didn't have to go through the meat grinder process that it does now.
In 1974, filmmaker Tobe Hooper suggested there was something cosmically wrong with life in America.
Hence, when malefic planets are in retrograde, and Saturn's malefic, okay, their malefice is increased.
Hey, man, you believe all that stuff your old lady's hawking me? I don't know.
Here's an era where people are running out of gas, so they're going to this town. The slaughterhouse has been closed down. People are out of work. It's reflecting a lot of the anxieties of the 70s, only in this family, they're not just unemployed, they're absolutely crazy.
It has this level of insanity that feels very real, and you wonder who made this fucking movie.
Audiences don't want something too horrible.
Hello?
It's not entertaining for them. They want to be entertained. They want to have a good time.
Hello?
They don't mind some of the characters on the screen getting bumped off, even in terrible ways, but you can cross a line.
I think the first horror movie I ever saw was The Thing. Because my mother, a lot of her fears, she like put onto me. Yes, they want breeds. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? But my dad, when I would go over, my brother and I would go over to his house, you know, sometimes we would like rent a movie here and there. I wish I could remember how old I was, but I was young. And my older brother and my dad thought it would be a great idea to rent John Carpenter's The Thing. I have never been so scared in my life at that age. I love it now, but it's crazy to think that that was my first, like, I knew of horror, really, kind of. But holy shit, that's a big one. That's a big one to watch first. Like, oh boy.
Then the audience will turn against you.
Anybody home?
And if you're a filmmaker, you can sometimes use that to your benefit by teasing the audience. The audience will say, God, are they going to show me something I don't want to see? I'm getting nervous now. This director, I don't trust this director, really. He may show me something that's going to really disturb me. If you can ever find that little niche, it's great because the audience then provides most of the action for you in their heads.
After the Vietnam War, the culture war in America raged on between rich and poor, young and old, us and them.
See the wind blow your dried up siege away. I'll eat the heart of your stinking memory. I'll eat the brains of your kids. I'm in! Yeah!
There are two kinds of horror fans. There are the horror fans who say, you know, I really groove on the monster. I like Dracula. I like the werewolf. I like the Frankenstein monster. And they're picking up on something in those characteristics, the fact that those creatures tend to be sort of despised outsiders.
Why should we treat her so fancy? She's a Frankenstein.
But the savage cinema is something entirely different. It's sort of a realization of the fact that life is random and that you don't control your life.
Nice.
You walk into horror with your eyes shut and then have to cope.
The prequel to The Hills Have Eyes, Online Lobster? Or, the prequel of The Thing. I have, yes. I remember seeing it and being quite disappointed because they bitched out and used CGI. I don't mind. Everything else is fine. It's just the goddamn CGI. Killed it for me.
Hi, Mom. What'd you do today? Yeah.
In The Exorcist, audiences watched helplessly as pure evil attacked an innocent teenage girl.
Oh, Mom, you should have seen this man came on.
Linda Blair's Reagan was everything that was sugar and spice and everything that was the perfect little girl, and she was set up so beautifully in that one little scene with her and her mother talking about her wanting a horse for.
I remember kind of liking the first 48 when I started to get into my true crime stage. My like mid-20s, I'm thinking. Cabin in the Woods is amazing. It is so different. That's what I love about it. It is so different, and what a insane but like brilliant concept. I do enjoy that one very much. No.
Her birthday.
When could I have one? We'll see, Reagan.
Tiny little details that made you feel you were very intimate in something very human.
All right, give it up. Yeah.
And when that girl then turned on us, she was victimized by this thing, one moment being thrashed around and the next moment she was totally in charge.
I've both have read the book and seen the movie plenty of times. Definitely the book is better. You can, another way I got to read it, God, I have it on my fucking playlist. No, the book. I'm talking about the book. You can listen to the author, Peter Blatty, read the audiobook. It's almost 11 hours long. It's good. It's really fucking good.
And he moved towards that door that we were going to go through it again.
The Room is definitely a horror film, and I agree.
Well, then let's introduce ourselves. I'm Damien Karras.
And I'm the devil. Now kindly undo these straps.
One of the actors in my troupe had seen the movie on the opening night because he had read the book and things, and he was the greatest trailer one could ever get for the movie because this son of a gun could not go home, and was sleeping on some of these.
And I agree that the movie is just as terrifying.
Floor by their bed.
And I know it's been like parodied a lot, and it's a little older, like throughout the years, blah blah blah, but I still think it's terrifying. But like in a good way.
Because he was so freaked out. And to go into the theater and feel this sense of fear that we're going to see something evil. I mean, this was going to be really an experience. People came in with that sense already, that anticipation that they were going to be traumatized. And sure as hell they were.
With the Father and the Holy
In The Exorcist, the evil was vanquished.
Amen.
But the national...
Oh my God, and watch any documentary that talks about the making of the Exorcist film, the first one. Holy shit, that film was cursed. So many crazy shit happened behind the scenes. It's really interesting. It's tragic, but it's quite interesting.
National crisis of confidence was far from over. In The Omen, the devil incarnate was adopted by the U.S. president.
Oh no!
The future never looked so grim.
It's winning!
Horror continued to infiltrate the most commonplace visions of domestic bliss, turning the American dream inside out.
In horror, you can deal with ideas, like with It's Alive. One of the things that made me do the picture was there were so many people alienated from their kids at that time. This is an interesting idea. What happens if you get to be terrified of your own child? The thing that you loved is suddenly the enemy.
In 1975, horror went mainstream. Universal invested millions in Jaws, and audiences flocked to the theaters.
Yeah, and I believe Steven Spielberg, he just was dropping his script to different companies just to see if he would get a bite. Oh yeah. My kid got in trouble at school for putting a kick me sign on another kid. Oh no! Aw. Did you tell your kid? No, I'm kidding.
To see idyllic visions of middle-class American life get shredded.
Yeah, these are kids.
It does testify to the fact that horror films, which were once the despised others, were becoming the A films of Hollywood. That whereas in years past, a film about a killer shark would have very much been a B film.
Thank you, Online Lobster.
It would have been a low-budget B film. Instead, it's this big-budget A film with top-of-the-line special effects.
If you forgot what
Top-of-the-line special effects. Bruce the Shark hardly ever worked. I can't believe, I need to find a bootleg of it, that they made a Broadway play about the making of Jaws. A month after. Oh, don't, oh, it doesn't matter. God, people are so mean when it comes to age. But because it ended up being a gold mine, because the fact that it didn't work, we didn't get to see the shark that much, and that's what made it more scary. In front of everyone, starts a new life with her under the sea. Oh,
is like.
Regardless of their budgets, most horror films portrayed red-blooded Americans fighting for their own individual ideas of the American dream.
Oh yeah, the original Stepford Wives is very scary. Jaws 3D.
In the Stepford Wives, the dream was manufactured.
There'll be somebody with my name.
Well, we talked about Leslie Nielsen earlier. We were talking about Dracula Dead and Loving It. So, he is.
And she'll cook and clean like crazy, but she won't be me.
In David Cronenberg's Shivers, sexual liberation was the order of the day. For better or worse.
This was the age of the Equal Rights Amendment, which ultimately did not pass. But also, Carrie was post Roe versus Wade, the idea put into law that a woman has the right to choose what she wants to have.
What song did you end up going for? Beetlebug. Horror, quote, horror movie I finally watched. I always knew the name, but I knew nothing really about it, but Ginger Snaps? It came out in the 2000s. It was always some like a title that I knew of, but had no idea what it was about. And then I looked it up or something, and it got like a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm thinking, okay, I guess it's time to watch it. It was really good. Really good. Until the end.
Happened with her
That's all I'm
body.
saying.
And so, there was certainly the opportunity there to play on some of those fears. The idea of, well, what if a woman is too powerful?
Yeah, Leslie Nielsen, when he was like a serious character.
I got criticized for punishing sexually promiscuous girls, which I never understood. My assignment was to, these vulnerable teenage girls were babysitters, and they were being stalked. So the question came up, what do the teenage girls do most of the time? Well, they talk about their boyfriends.
Paul dragged me into the boys' locker room.
Exploring uncharted territory.
Or they're making out with their boyfriends. One of them maybe is a little not quite as far advanced in her social education, so Jamie Lee Curtis is the one who's a little scared of life, and she's actually the one who ends up kicking butt, pretty much. She takes care of business.
Deborah Hill mentioned that she was surprised nobody commented that the one person who hasn't had sex is the one who penetrates the shape, attacks him, is getting out her sexual frustrations because she really has no other outlet.
Alien Alien is totally a film about sexuality. And I think that comes out of the idea that the alien life form is supposed to be a perfect life form. And I guess the idea is if you're a perfect life form, you sort of have to have a perfect and adaptable life cycle. So there's this strong undercurrent about the reproductive cycle in Alien, particularly how the alien co-ops the human reproductive cycle.
By the end of the 1970s, the American way of life had mutated into something unrecognizable. To say nothing of the American way of death.
I had to unmute myself. Hold on. What are you guys talking about? I had to go for a second. It's Chinese food. Teeth is good too. That's a musical now. Teeth is an actual. It's not on Broadway, but it's playing. Oh, damn it, my phone. In New York City right now. If he was the star of the Blob, oh my god. And you thought hard candy sucked? Wow. I thought hard candy was great. Game over, man. Game over. Have you heard the Silence of the Lambs musical? I have not. Hello, Blinken. Welcome. Oh my god. I've seen the Reanimator musical. That's cool. That was fun. The guy who was in the show Cheers, Norm. He played the girlfriend's father. It's interesting.
In Dawn of the Dead, George Romero
Off
the fate
Broadway. I'll have to look that up for sure.
of the nation's silent majority.
What the hell are they?
They're us, that's all.
They're us.
Zombies to me could be any
I totally am. Like tonight.
natural disaster. They could be anything. My stories are about the people that deal with it, don't deal with it improperly, deal with it stupidly, deal with it, you know, the stories are about how people screw up.
What anyone who's chatting here, I know this isn't like brand spanking new, but Terrifier, I can't remember which Halloween stream it was. If it was, I don't think it was last year's when Bunny and I talked about A24 films. Maybe I can't remember, but someone in the chat recommended, God, I don't know why, I'm thinking it might have been Johnny Utah, but maybe I'm thinking of someone else, recommended Terrifier. We need a Jordan musical. We needed a Jordan musical like years ago. Yeah, the era of zombies, I have never really been too big in the zombie genre. I did watch like Walking Dead for a little bit and stuff like that, but Book of Mormon. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I'm so mad I only saw that once. God, I lost track of my shit. Have you guys seen? Oh, I have. I've seen that Outdoor Loser as well. I'm just gonna move on.
Donna.
I have been walking the Spirit Road a little bit, so my short-term memory is a little tonight.
The Dead is celebrated for the whole idea of making fun of the consumer.
Phantom of the coupons.
Consumer cultures. These guys go to a mall and have unlimited access to all the material goods they ever want, and for a while they celebrate and go crazy, but that's limited.
The Amityville Horror suggested that even the basic dream of home ownership was fraught with demons.
Well, I guess people have had to deal with this ever since Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden.
I never got into Amityville, really. Oh, I'm so jealous, Beetlebug. First 2 years of college, I lived the Upper West Side of New York, and it was magical. God, we would like stay in like standing room lines, or like just wait until people like don't like because they always want their shows to be sold out. So if you like stand and wait and people don't buy the tickets to a point where it's like sold out, they will give you like discounted tickets if you just wait there right at the door when the musical's like about to start. I got to see some good shit and some really bad shit for really cheap.
One writer captured middle-class America's shattered dreams better than any other.
Like, I watched Lestat, the musical, on Broadway, and people were exiting the theater before Act 1 was done.
Holy old Jesus!
Stephen King is the horror version of Norman Rockwell. His characters live in your neighborhood. You know, they live next door to you. They experience what you do. And it's not the monster in the closet, but the people who own the house that the closet is in that the story is about.
He obviously saw the same Twilight Zones we all saw, the same Outer Limits.
Oh, that's great. I'm a theater like major, so I love musicals. So it's nice in this community to meet more people who are into musicals. I love that. Not that it's like taboo or anything like it kind of used to be, I guess, but still.
It's the same.
I wish I knew more people.
Same Corman movies, all that same stuff, loved that stuff, but because of his writing talent and taking those basic ideas and stories.
Working with them is a different story. There's a difference between having friends who are into musicals and then coworkers when you work in musicals.
And filling, these novels full of the thoughts of these characters.
Has it ever occurred to you?
Hey, I was just watching this before the stream started. I still need to finish it. Not that I haven't seen it yet, like at all before, but it's been a minute.
The part of being a parent is trying to kill your kids.
I love you, Danny. I love you more than anything else in the whole world. I would never do anything to hurt you. Never.
In Stephen King's story, The Dead Zone, the struggle between good and evil came down to the struggle between a man and his country.
This movie was pretty good. Old monsters, new flesh.
I just deal with Universal to make some movies where I would write the scripts and I'd have complete control and such, which was great. And I wanted to do something about Reagan.
I watched something recently, Callie, if they ever did a musical about you and your life, who would you want to play you? Me. I don't know. Let me think about that.
And because it just pissed me off so much.
The politics of the 1980s called for a return to traditional values. But to some, the government policies seemed like a manipulation of American freedoms.
This is a good one.
The crowd was kill a commie for Christ. And let's get those commies and kill them. So I grew up laughing at that.
In the UK, actors inspired to do theater, acting, and film. Well, there's been like, God, like, oh, you're fine, Zachy. I really appreciate you coming in. It's always fun having you. I love, you know, you got the love of horror that I very much enjoy. So enjoy the rest of your night. Yeah, but think of it now. The last, my God, it's been over 10 years when people of film and television transition to theater. That's crazy, because it used to be between, like, you know, us and them, the, like, you know, the who's into theater, who's into film and TV and stuff like that. But it's, yeah, in the US, it's all, but I get what you're saying, like in the UK, how it's different, and I feel like it's been like that for like ever, and it's fine. It's kind of fun. But yeah, in the US, it makes me feel bad, because even like when you see like a movie star in a Verizon commercial, it's like, fuck. What about those other actors out there who are trying to get commercial work so they can pay their damn bills? Not that I can relate to that.
In Doctor Strangelove. And now here it was again. He had returned, and with this massive enthusiasm behind it. And this unrestrained free enterprise.
It really boils down to our ability to accept. We don't need pessimism. There are no limits.
It figures it would be something like this.
That's cute. I'm not like super huge into like political horror. I don't know, it like kind of really depends.
For the home video generation, the decade was defined by slasher movies, beginning with Friday the 13th.
What's interesting about the Friday the 13th series is that if you watch those films, down to a film, Jason is compared with nature.
It's gonna storm.
In every one of the Friday the 13th films, there's a storm coming when he's coming at the same time. So is Jason actually an avenging force of God? You know, is he Mother Nature? Is nature angry? Is God angry at these teens for smoking weed or occasionally doing cocaine or having premarital sex? It was really interesting that the forces of the moral majority and the religious right had such an objection to these films because they were
Saturday the 14th, stupidest movie ever. I agree.
Essentially depicting an Old Testament world. You behave badly and you will be killed. Vice precedes slice and dice.
Where are we headed? About Camp Crystal Lake. Oh, yeah. Planning on smoking a little dope, having a little premarital sex, and getting slaughtered?
It's
Shut up, baby!
Hey, you want a beer? Or do you want to smoke some pot? Or we can have premarital sex. We love premarital sex.
Yep. Come to a Cali stream, you'll see plenty of breeds, especially on Halloween. I'm surprised Len never got into horror movies, but maybe he didn't know they got right. Totally. Lorne hung out with in his wild days. Yeah, all the stupid, unlikable fucking douchebags that were all in the Friday the 13th movies. And he was always the one that got, like, continuously, like, picked on. I mean, Jason got to go to space. Who else gets to say that? I'm thinking like, what, how come I didn't have to worry about the Bravo thing that I watched and streamed? Oh, because it was on television.
It's a joke.
Leprechaun did go to space. You are correct. Yeah. People like sometimes say that, but I don't know if it's necessarily true that like horror and sex are like intertwined in some way. Yeah, like if you have sex, you're dead. If you smoke drugs, you're dead. You know, it's mind-blowing to me. I don't know who came up with that. Titties in space.
Joke.
With a new slasher movie being released every weekend, horror movies were big business. The challenge for filmmakers was figuring out how to revitalize the classic monsters for the new generation.
Genre pieces basically deal with, okay, this is a myth, we've established some things. Now, given this as a premise, where do we go with it?
Somewhere in this city, in this human...
A lot. Beetlebug. Also a Jesse stream, lopsided. Wait, I'm looking at your other thing that I missed. Also a Jesse stream, lopsided. Bet you will see Brutes. Yeah, I guess. Yep. You might see hers at some point, but I got the 80s horror hookup right here. No, in the telling you, in the 80s, even like 90s, like early, like sex was a huge part, and sexuality was such a huge part of horror. And I don't see it as a bad thing, in my opinion, but it's funny how like if you guys think of like the original like Reefer Madness, that was made by like a church to warn people about the dangers of marijuana. It is seriously one of the most hilarious films I have ever fucking seen. It's so damn good. That also became a musical. And they thought they were trying to like scare the children. Oh, Reefer Madness is so good. But I fucking hate the 80s. 90s was the best. I understand. I was born in 85, so I was like a 80s baby, but I definitely consider myself like a 90s kid. And unfortunately, I am an early 2000s teenager. Oh, God. Oh, my God. That's right. There's... I gotta save it and watch it tomorrow. A new movie on Netflix. I think it's called like Time Out or Timed Out. It's My Generation. Yep, Timed Cut. There it is. Yep. It's my generation's turn, guys. It's time. Someone from the 2020s, goes back in time to 2003 to try to stop a killer. Help me. It's not my turn. I'm so upset, but I'm actually like really excited to watch it. I agree. I am very, very bitter that I am not part of the Generation X technically, but I don't know. I guess sometimes I guess I'll consider myself like a Zennial or whatever, but I do remember what it was like without internet.
Jungle. It begins.
When they released The Howling, None of the ads showed that it was a werewolf movie because that would have seemed old-fashioned and dusty.
Even a man who is pure in heart.
Honestly, like the 90s were just so chill. They're just so chill.
And says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolf bane blooms.
It seemed to me that the audience was going to find it old hat and kind of corny. And so we did everything we could do to not make it seem like a werewolf picture.
Hello?
There's no crime in that.
Karen. You're kidding me. We'll be right up. Just calm down. Okay, bye-bye.
I don't think I know what hindsight
What
is.
is
I'll have
it?
to look that up.
Bill just got bitten by a wolf.
Whoever is bitten by a werewolf and lives becomes a werewolf himself.
There's a lot of humor in it, and there's a lot of references to other movies, because it's, I think, the first werewolf movie that...
Hindsight, plagued by doubt as her second marriage approaches, Becca gets the chance to remake the past as she wakes up in 1995. It's the morning of her first wedding day. Oh my god! I would love to watch this. Can I watch this on anything? You were born the year of our Lord, 1987. Only ran one season. Oh, damn. I hope I could find this somewhere and watch it. That looks really cool.
presupposed that the audience already knew about werewolf movies. And what they don't know is that werewolves are real.
Yeah, you don't want to do the hard stuff like marijuana.
Horror became spectacle again. Back in
I didn't even smoke like THC today, but Drock got this like what are they called? Like a it was CBD, but it's like a Delta 9 or some shit. Oh, that got me there.
the 50s it was spectacle because it was space monsters and all those things, and in the 60s it drew down into the Norman Bates and Rosemary's Baby, into human drama. It was a new time because suddenly it wasn't just the filmmaker, but it was also
Cricket Snapper. God damn it. That's the movie Jordan was in. Cricket Snapper. Fuck. I fail. I'll see myself out.
so the special effects guys, the Rick Bakers of the world, the Rob Botins of the world. Spectacle returned in a big way.
Other films took the opposite approach, relying on traditional Gothic atmospherics.
I went to the catacombs in Paris and went down, 6 stories.
Oh, thank you so much for coming in, Blinken. Have a good night. I'm most likely, we only have maybe like 30 more minutes of this documentary. I'm going to keep it going. Am I tired? Yes, but still. I like to finish things.
Stairs, and found myself, wall to wall with skulls and bones from hundreds of cemeteries that had been dug up and all the bones put down there. You talk about Gothic. And
Oh, okay. I'll look that up.
that impression was the thing that created One Dark Night. It really embraced the old thing of, set up, and what's going to happen. And then when it took off, they were jumping out of their seats, screaming.
Thank you, Blinken. I can't wait to watch this.
John Carpenter's The Fog also drew on the Gothic tradition. He based his old-fashioned ghost story on a legend from America's past.
The 17 or 1800s, they were bringing gold in a ship to Goleta in Santa Barbara. And the town essentially put out a fake fire to draw them to what the ship thought was the beach. They hit the rocks and the ship went down, so they went out and looted the gold. And the true story. So I just took that idea of this town with a sort of a dark past.
There's something in the fog.
It speaks to what I think was John Carpenter's growing disenchantment with America in the 1980s. The Fog is about the 100th anniversary.
You Yeah, John Carpenter stuff always has like some type of like commentary that's very interesting.
Of this town, Antonio Bay. And all the people in the town are preparing for a big festival wherein they will remember these 6 great people who sort of formed this town and made it such a wonderful place to live. Well, the only problem is those 6 Americans were thieves.
Nope.
I'm the 6th conspirator. Take me.
In the suburban neighborhood in
I think Poltergeist is good. I wasn't like huge on it, but I've definitely watched it like more than once.
Poltergeist, the ghosts were equally restless.
The fact that they use real human skeletons, insane.
Room for a pool, is there? We own all the land. We've already made arrangements for relocating the cemetery.
You son of a bitch, you moved the cemetery, but you left the bodies, didn't you? You son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones! Lie! Lie!
That's terrifying, but also that's funny.
What this is saying, essentially, is that your past comes up to bite you on the ass if you do bad things, and that there's no free ride in America, and that if we do bad things, there's going to be blowback.
In
Tremors is hilarious.
1982, John Carpenter's remake of The Thing offered a bleak look into the future.
Yeah, and I can't believe when this movie came out, it flopped. This movie was considered like one of the worst films ever, and not even in like it was like this is terrible. And now look at it now. It was reborn and it's now considered like one of the most influential films in horror history.
He's one of them.
The first movie that I ever watched. It scared the living shit out of me.
When do you think it got to him? I don't know. Could have been any time, anywhere, if it did get to him. Hey, look, Childs, come on. When the lights went out, that would have been the perfect time.
It seemed to me that we had hit that wall where we weren't trusting anybody.
Where were you? When the lights went out! That's what it was! To put us against each other!
Forget our governments, schools, institutions, bada-boom, bada-boom, bada-boom. We weren't trusting each other. We weren't trusting ourselves.
In George Romero's Day of the Dead, the whole of humanity has been reduced to a group of squabbling survivors.
Fact is, either we are the only ones left, or there's nobody within range of my puny little Second World War signals.
You wear a uniform, whether it's a military uniform or a scientist's gown, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you're just underneath it all. You're just sort of a human, flawed, very flawed human.
Maybe if we tried working together, we could ease some of the tensions. We're all pulling in different directions.
Well, that's the trouble with the world, Senator.
There's a great documentary on all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies called Never Sleep Again. I think I've seen that. Again, my favorite is the story behind the second Freddy movie. Yes! Totally. I absolutely agree. Where it was almost reversed. The lead actor, like the damsel, was a guy. The gay actor, yes. The girl, yes. She did look like Meryl Streep. Yeah. And she was like the friend who like wanted to be the friend, but like, at the same time, like, it's like, he doesn't like you that way. It's nothing personal. Oh yeah. I think the second one is great.
Darling, people got different ideas concerning what they want out of life.
Even the scene where he's dancing in his room with the ping pong paddle on his junk.
Return of the Living Dead was just as pessimistic, but far more humorous about the nation's dark side.
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
Oh my god, that's so meta.
Yeah. That's the one where the corpses start eating the people, right? Did you know that movie was based on a true case? Come on, you're shitting me, right? I ain't never been more serious in my life.
Warning. We interrupt this presentation with the following urgent message regarding The Stuff.
The Stuff. Who has seen The Stuff? Anybody?
The Stuff was a commentary on what people were really doing to themselves with the kind of food they were eating and the cigarettes they were smoking and the vast conspiracy to addict the public.
The Stuff, the taste that makes you hungry for more. Enough is never enough. The Stuff, the taste that delivers.
Enough is never enough.
Mother hush.
Can't get enough of the stuff.
Bucket.
All right, we're going into the 80s.
By mid-decade, monster movies had become so popular that they were being produced and marketed for the widest possible audience.
When I first
Yeah, these are like family horror films. Like, who would have thought?
got involved with it, it was a spec script that Chris Columbus had written, hoping to make a name in Hollywood for himself, and it was being passed around. And when Spielberg saw it, he said, well, this is perfect to make a low-budget horror picture out of it. As it developed, it became obvious that the picture was going to cost a little bit more money than they had thought originally, and therefore...
The first Gremlins was absolutely terrifying, and the second one is just great, campy fun.
Or maybe it shouldn't be quite as dark as it was, because the Gremlins ate the dog and cut the mother's head off and bounced it downstairs, and it was really gruesome.
What really made the 80s such a great time for at least independent horror movies, genre movies, what I love, was the video. People were clamoring to get stuff for their video machines. There was all this money for independent movies, and we see in the early 80s how many really interesting movies were being made.
I've got something I want to play for you.
Oh my God!
Even the goriest films of the 1980s were defined by their unlikely sense of humor.
Dance is the best part ever, and the game.
Thanks to a new batch of young filmmakers like Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi, what he did was he threw everything at you, including the kitchen sink. And, you know, he literally pummeled the viewer. He would use these fast-moving...
Bruce Campbell, like, what a fucking icon.
I
think Ash versus the Evil Dead show is pretty damn good.
Shaky cam shots where you're barreling it.
I even like I love the Evil Dead movies. I think the remake is great. It is such a different take. Rise of the Evil Dead I thought was really great too. Like, different type of storytelling. A different type of isolation. It's great. And the blood stuff is hilarious.
People, the most ingenious shots, you know, a 1 gallon of blood wasn't good enough. You'd have 10 gallons of blood hitting somebody. It was just excess. And again, that speaks to something about the 80s too, was that was the era of excess.
Excess.
When we were making Reanimator, I don't think we thought about...
I can't believe that this became a musical. And the fact that I got to see it, I can't remember. I was like finishing up college, and I needed to watch some local theater production, and I was able to find this. And I remember already liking the movie because it was so controversial, and like it was kind of dirty too, but it was so campy. And it was one of those musicals where like there's a splash zone. Like, you pay for the most expensive ticket to get blood splattered all over you. That was the pricey ticket.
About it as being subversive. I think that we were just having fun.
Talk about giving
There was
head.
no intention of making it funny. But it sort of turned out that way because we kept laughing all the time when we were doing stuff. For us, it was having a delight in doing these horrific things.
Oh, Mr. West.
You'll never get credit for my discovery. Who's going to believe a talking head? Get a job in a sideshow.
Wes Craven produced the most iconic character of the decade.
This is God.
A supernatural serial killer named
Can't beat the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Freddy Krueger.
You have to ask yourself, who was the most towering, charismatic figure of the 1980s? And you could say Ronald Reagan, or you could say Freddy Krueger. They both essentially pursued the same policy, that they were going to, through their actions, visit the sins of the father upon the children. Daddy, help me! And what that was...
Well, Dead Alive, it's also known as like Brain Dead. That's freaking iconic. That's Peter fucking Jackson, man. That's pretty, again, like where people like get started. That movie, I compared that to... Has anyone ever heard of or has seen Society? 80s. It was starring the main like young guy that was in Baywatch. Happy Halloween, sorry please. Oh, you're June about Freddy and I shit for time. Yes. Oh my god. Oh my god. But guys, if you like body horror, check out Society. That has to be the weirdest movie I've ever seen. I used like a free trial of some horror streaming thing just so I can fully watch the movie, and I almost kept that subscription just because I wanted to be able to watch Society as many times as I could, because it is so fucking insane, guys. It is so insane. The Shaunting. Look up what the Shaunting is, and maybe you'll get some idea.
In terms of Freddy, was that he was going after and killing the children of the people who killed him.
Everything's gonna be all right.
And what Reagan did was put this country so badly into debt, so badly into deficit with the buildup of the arms race, by lowering taxes for the extremely rich. By doing that, what he was doing was he was building up all of this future debt for the children of America.
See, I feel like there is great potential for a Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Whatever they came out with whenever ago. Fail.
You are all my children now.
The good thing about Nightmare on Elm Street was it was kind of...
And I believe they can do it without Robert Englund. Just gotta find the right person.
tongue-in-cheek. I mean, there was scary stuff in it, but then Freddy would always say those one-liners that made you laugh.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
Welcome to prime time, bitch. Welcome to my world, bitch.
And you had this serial killer that was funny and awesome, and I wanted to be him for Halloween every year. And I still have pictures of me as like an 11-year-old, 12-year-old wearing Freddy Krueger. Like I actually had prosthetics on my face.
Over the years, having dealt with this and talked to kids, and particularly the fans of the Fridays or the Freddys and stuff, we all wanted to be unstoppable.
I feel like that was another great divide when it came to what I was talking about way earlier. No Country for Old Men versus There Will Be Blood. I mean, in the 80s, it was Nightmare or Friday.
you know, in control of the situation, clever with the...
They just spewed out, like, sequel after sequel. And then, of course, Halloween was came before them and tried to, like, play catch-up.
One-liners, you know, whether it's James Bond or Freddy.
My name is Pussy Galore.
I must be dreaming. You know, if you don't feel you're as handsome as James Bond,
What a suck face.
you know, your identification may be, you know, with one of the monsters.
In 1991, Freddy was succeeded by a more refined Nightmare Man. Silence of the Lambs resonated so strongly with critics.
They need a Nightmare on Elm Street starring Winnie. That would be a one-liner battle for the ages. I agree. Just having Winnie show up in your dreams, just be like, "Sup, bitch?" Just torture you. I mean, I've said it before, like, Winnie reminds me of a friend of mine who was just this crazy party girl. And, you know, she's a good time, but you can die hanging out with her.
And audiences that it captured all 4 of the major Academy Awards in 1991. The question is, why was it so popular?
Serial killers have a human face.
See, that's the key, because Robert Englund made the character. He did. But when I think of, like, other actors who have played different characters, like when I think of, like, the Joker, we've got some good, some great, some awful. But I just like seeing different interpretations of iconic villains. And not even that, the guy who was, I can't think of the actor, he was a Rorschach in Watchmen, who I loved. That character, the actor is great. I just feel like it was just a bad script. The actors, like the main actress, she didn't even want to be there. It was just lazy, and I feel like he got kind of just the shaft, like not being attached to the right people, in my opinion.
You know, they're people we know. They're
Oh, interesting. They passed on him for the sequel, but that's right. Yeah. I remember that. Yes. Yeah, he made it iconic. It is a hard role to take on. But I like a good challenge. Nightmare on Munckled Street.
fellow human beings.
Yeah. Wait, no. So the Watchmen was still, the Watchmen, the original trailer is my like top 5 trailers ever. But they made a series on, was it HBO, that I thought was great. But it didn't go past its first season, and I was so confused why. I mean, part of me was, and people thought it was like maybe like a little too like woke or whatever, but at the same time I'm like, are you just upset because you're seeing more people of color on as main characters, or like what? Like it's like Rorschach played Freddy. Yes, he did. Yes, and I think he wasn't a bad choice. I just think whoever else, like it was just all lazy. The script, it was just cheap with just like jump scares. He had some really good tics that he had going for him. Like, if it was something completely different. Oh, Watchmen is amazing.
They're our neighbors. They're the male.
There's nothing like it. still.
Man, they're the guy in line in the supermarket in front of us or at the gas station.
Psycho 4.
It's a pretty frightening idea when a serial killer could be in such close proximity.
And now I'm going to have to do it again.
Anthony Perkins! I just need to watch the other... I still haven't seen any of the, like, Psycho, sequels. But, like, still, Anthony Perkins is, like, a legend. I just want to see it just to see what it's like. I agree with you that they could definitely do one without him. Yeah. They got... Yeah. It's possible. It's possible. I just... As much as I love, like, films, you know, I still think that, like, Hollywood is the most, like, toxic place ever. And I think they've been slowly killing themselves for a very, very long time.
My brother introduced me when I was maybe 10 or 11 to a movie called Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. And I think that was my very first experience.
This movie, I've been honestly a little too scared to watch.
Experience in the horror genre.
Henry presented the serial killer as the inversion of the American dreamer. A nightmare visionary with his own twisted concept of life.
Yeah, I don't think I can watch that.
Liberty. And the pursuit of happiness.
What are you doing? We'll see it again.
This is bad. I'm so sorry. This is not censored at all. Maybe that makes sense why I watched it on like a streaming service and not on network television.
In the old days, I used to think, God, how do these people sleep at night? And as I got older and did a lot of these movies about killers, I realized very well they sleep. Very well. A lot of the people I've spoken to on death row, you know, when I've researched characters, they seem to just have absolutely either no emotion.
His pulse never got above 85, even when he ate her tongue.
Or it was something that had to be done, or, yeah, I kind of regret it now, but don't hear any regret.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
That's in and of itself scary.
Like when you win an Oscar for only being on screen for like, what, 12 minutes? That's iconic.
In Candyman, the serial killer is a myth.
I think Candyman is great. I have yet to see... I'm so behind on certain movies, like horror films, that I want to like watch and like catch up on. Candyman is one of them, just because the way that it became, like, who was it? Oh, God damn it. Like, the story was changed completely from the original. Is this the NC-17 French film? Dog wags man. I don't know.
The logical figure who inspires as much
Clive Barker? Clive Barker, yes.
fascination as fear.
I think there has always been an attraction to the monster or to evil in horror films.
Helen.
For the 2
I mean, Tony Todd. Fucking legend.
hours that you sit there in the dark and you watch those monsters.
Who is that?
It's not that you want to be them. It's not that you want to kill anybody, but it's the idea of you are both attracted and repulsed.
Be my victim.
You wouldn't want to run into them. You don't want to leave the theater and skin somebody alive, but you do leave the theater and think, that was cool.
That's hot.
In 7, the serial killer became a self-righteous judge. He is a monster. But then he says, so are we.
We see a deadly sin on every street corner,
Boo.
in every home,
Boo.
and we tolerate it. Well, not anymore. I'm setting the example.
Boo.
And what I've done is going to be puzzled over and
Nope.
studied
No.
and followed. Forever. Yeah.
You could
Kevin
show.
Spacey, I mean, there's the ultimate serial killer right there.
Don't care.
John Doe was this little kind of on Elm Street. Oh, you're sleeping, and this guy can kill you in your sleep, and you're gonna die in real life.
Ah! That's fucking terrifying to me. Ew, go away.
And a lot of movies, because a lot of movies you take huge leaps. You know, Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, you're sleeping, and this guy can.
Like, I don't think. Which one is this? Is this Dream Warriors or the one after it? But damn,
Killing
this
your
kill
sleep.
always.
You're gonna die in real
Always
life.
got me.
Jason Voorhees is some 7'8" dude that
Oh, I hate it.
you know can never be killed. Well, this is just a little twerpy dude who's making these people commit heinous acts. The news.
Okay.
Some of the biggest acts of
God.
Oh God.
I think
Misery.
that's really scary.
If you guys haven't seen Misery, please go watch it, or at least read the book.
God.
Shh, darling. Trust me.
God's sake.
It's for the best.
Eddie, please!
Yeah, I remember that there was a show for Nightmare, and then Wes Craven came out with this. This is when things, I feel like, started to get like meta.
With the final sequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven explored the idea that the monster has somehow outgrown the fictional world.
You're saying Freddy is this ancient thing.
Right. Current version. And for 10 years, he's been held captive pretty much as Freddy in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. But now that the films have ended, the genie's out of the bottle.
Oh, hi April. When Anthony Hopkins said that line, fava beans, yes, he really ate a person. But I think, from what I've seen before, I believe, don't quote me, but I feel like Anthony Hopkins, it was said in like some other documentary that he like hated that line and thought it was like silly or something about it, where the opposite ended up happening than what he thought was going to happen. Like, that is like one of the most biggest like horror villain lines, and doing that was improv, I believe, and he thought it was so stupid or something like that, but it ended up being like one of the most terrifying things ever. That's crazy.
We've always had horror stories, whether you go back to Hansel and Gretel or Greek myth or what have you, and that there is a direct line that connects those stories to the horror films Wes Craven is making.
Dylan, this is so violent. I don't know why you like these stupid old fairy tales.
Finish, please.
And those stories have been with mankind all along because they serve some valuable purpose to us. They're the only ones that are making us address our culture and the violence in our culture and the hatred in our culture and the divisions in our culture. The horror movies are the ones that are doing that. So the monsters come from horror movies into our reality because that's where the monsters really live.
You've seen one too many.
Oh, here we go. Zachy went to bed already, and now we were at Scream.
Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos or create...
When you think about like Wes Craven, he shows up during a certain time of like the decade, does something iconic. Everything else, like when he does something else, like it kind of like it like sucks, and then he like goes dormant, and it'll come again, like 70s, and then the 80s. Something so iconic, and then he tries to do something else, and but then like he always like just came back with completely changing the genre, changing like, I mean, Scream was such a huge impact, and it came at like the best time. And I'm like, it's one of those things, like, I feel so honored that I was alive to, like, witness this at, like, I was a little younger. I don't believe, yeah, I wasn't in, like, high school when Scream came out, but, like, I always felt a little younger than, like, the 90s, like, horror films. I was always, like, a little too young, like, middle school, and, like, they were in high school. I was like, oh my god, I can't wait to be a high school person because this just all looks crazy.
American Psycho proposed that the most horrifying monster we face.
Another film that people hated, and then it resurfaced, and it's now it's one of the most influential horror films, like, ever. That's just so common with the horror genre. It's like when you think of, like, Back to the Future, when Marty is doing the concert and he's doing that rock and roll stuff. It's like, guess you guys aren't ready for that. But your kids will love it. That's a good horror film to me, I guess.
Is the corrupted American dreamer, dedicated to a warped concept of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
And this also was a musical too. Guys didn't know. I fully believe that lie. Movies don't make the people psychos, but they make psychos. Yeah. Wes Craven got all his ideas from Roy when he was drunk. You know what? I would believe that.
I think that what makes a good horror movie is you can't just have a villain be villainous. If there's no sense of humanity to him, then he's a caricature. He's not a character.
Tonight, I just had to kill a lot of people!
If you listen to what Hannibal Lecter said, it made sense. And he just happened to eat people as well, but what he said made sense. And I think that the villain in any horror movie has to make some sort of sense.
This horror movie monster is the true American rebel. And for that, we grant him at least partial amnesty.
Given the chance, you would deny me my life, wouldn't you?
Not your life.
I wasn't too big on, like, the sequels of Silence of the Lambs. I did be... Oh God, it was like last year I tried to watch the Hannibal series, which it started great for me. I didn't stop it for any, like, reason, like, against the show, but damn. Yes, it's just like, why try to reinvent the wheel? Like, stop trying to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is fine. Oof. Relevant in horror anymore. Boom. No. You're not 10! Oh, God, it took me a while.
My freedom, just that. You take that from me.
Hannibal Lecter kills certain people who deserve...
It's just like there's some films that are good enough by themselves. You just can't... You can't remake them. You can't... It's really hard to make, like, sequels. Very hard. I just felt like all the other ones were just... I hate to say the word, but, like, cheap.
Deserve to die. So the question is, you know, is Hannibal Lecter a monster or is Hannibal Lecter a hero? I don't think that the villain becoming the hero was actually a very new thing, because I think that for earlier generations, the Frankenstein monster, in a sense, became a hero. You know, in the 90s we saw Brad Pitt's Vampire, Interview with a Vampire.
Hell yeah, Interview with the Vampire.
Being the hero. He offed the bad vampire.
It's like the best, most gayest movie ever. It's the best.
What's changed is how our culture has changed. I think it seems like something new in the 90s because we were more uncertain about things in the 90s. We were looking at a more morally relative culture.
In Blade, there is no question that the vampire is the hero. As viewers, we like knowing that the monster is out there. The fear.
I didn't really get into Blade. My husband's really into it. But he was like one of the, like, wasn't he like the first, like, comic? Like a Marvel was it Marvel? That like became like a film.
Keeps us sharp. On the dawn of the new
God, M. Night Shyamalan.
millennium, horror movies continue to ask viewers to question their reality.
Cole? What?
Talk about a hit and a miss. This guy, M. Night Shyamalan, the first Marvel success. Yeah, something like that. Yes. And that's so cool because, like, you know, he's a black character, and I just find that iconic. But like this, like M. Night Shyamalan, guys, like just. I think he's someone I would like to be able to crawl into his mind and just kind of walk around and try to understand, because he's come up with like some very iconic things, but at the same time he comes up with things that are like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it feels like a troll sometimes. I hate saying that, but this was fucking terrifying.
In the face of death, what do we believe in? In a world where there's a thin line between news and entertainment.
My God, when Blair Witch came out, Jesus, what a time to be alive to watch something in real time. They were marketing it as like it actually was real. It was actual found footage. These people are actually missing. They're like, oh my God.
Fact and fiction.
Hello? It's all around us.
And a lot of this had to do with like the birth of the internet.
How do we know what's real and what's not?
Roll camera.
In a country raised on Hollywood magic,
Outdoor Loser, I love Secondhand Lions. That is actually like I love that movie. Oh, my watch is telling me it's bedtime, but we're not done yet. Lestat. I've seen a Broadway musical called Lestat. I mentioned that earlier. Mike Pence! Have you seen a picture of his cock yet? Whose? Names, darling. I want names.
how do we recognize real evil?
Don't Breathe was fucking intense. The next one was bullshit. Rod or Todd? The three actors in Blair Witch made no money. Yes, like the actress, she ended up like changing her name because it ruined her, because she was very unlikable when it came to like the audience. That film like ruined them. I I love that movie, Outdoor Loser. I really do. It's like one of those movies that like don't get like enough credit, in my opinion. $1,000 for a film that made $500 million. Yes, they totally got like screwed over, and I'm fucked with them like mentally too. Oh, those poor people. Who the fuck is Blair? She's a witch, and she likes to do projects.
One year into the new millennium, America changed forever. But for some, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
I had started to write Land of the Dead. It was going to be my...
Oh, you watched the first one? That's awesome. A friend of mine is in the original. Shit, that got really popular. I think it's good. It's a little too like rapey for me, but I think they get a little better. Oh, who? God, I don't want to say her name, but she's in the short with the people who go into the woods. She is blonde, very gorgeous. The one with like the friends when they're all in the woods. That's all I'll say. So she, oh yeah, that's her. Damn, her and I, we've been through a lot together. Oh God.
90s zombie thing. I had finished it and sent it around. I mean, literally like, a week and a half before 9/11 happened. I came back to it again when that hysteria wound down.
Yeah, it is.
And I sort of tailored it for this new normal.
Romero shows us a land where the leaders have taken advantage of a culture of fear to gain money and power at the expense of ordinary human lives.
I've asked about Terrifier, but like no one has said anything. Have you guys seen Terrifier 1, 2, 3? I haven't seen 3. I've seen 1 and 2. What do you guys think? Started way too hard. Yeah. And I think VHS is a really great concept for sure.
Cannibalism is business as usual.
Terrifier 3 is the best. That's what I am hearing. And I was saying it earlier, Johnny Utah. I can't. You probably weren't here, but I wonder, was it you who recommended that film to me like years ago? And I tried watching like parts of it, but like it was during the time it was like only on like YouTube or something. I remember just like really not liking the first one because obviously there's no story, and Art the Clown is to me, he's the most terrifying clown in horror history. But I watched the second one. That was great. I did enjoy Terrifier 2. I still need to see 3.
Nothing changes it, man. What does it take? What does it take to kick people in the ass hard enough to get them to, wake up?
There was an odd line in a movie I made called...
Oh, that sucks, April. Hopefully hanging out here and, talking about some horror films was able to give you a little fun Halloween time.
Starman, where Jeff Bridges' character is dying and he comes to a realization that humans are best when things are at their worst. That's not true. I wish it was true. But what happens when people get afraid?
Did you see my horror themed? I'm sure I did. Mike Pence, but I think it might have been a while. Give me a second. Okay. I just made you a smooth moderator. So if you can drop a link, I would love to watch it.
Is real ugly. They get fearful. That's what happened after 9/11, and it took over.
Well, can you just be nice and just like post it now in the chat? I don't want to go looking on community tabs. Come on. Haven't seen the Terrifier movies. After the original It, I can't do evil clown movies. Thank you, Kelly. Definitely having. Oh, good. I'm glad you are. Yeah, clowns are like. I feel like that's like very common, like one of the most common things to be like scared of. Oh yeah, we totally talked about The Thing earlier. We do love The Thing, and it's crazy how shunned it was when it first came out. Like, it was the worst movie ever, and now it's like labeled as like one of the most influential horror movies ever. No! Shit!
And where Jeff Bridges' character is dying and...
Okay. We did a little bit. All I said was it was fine, but I think that the decision to go with CGI was a monumental mistake. Because I heard that they filmed everything with like practical effects, and then something happened. I don't know if like the studio or the producers like freaked out and thought, oh, this isn't gonna be, they're gonna think it's too fake, let's throw some, I don't know. Producers really are they're so good at fucking things up. Like producers, when you think of like Jennifer's Body, how people were watching the film and they listened to like one guy who was like, need more Jennifer's boobs. Like, not even spelled correctly, like BEWBES. Like, need more boobs. Ugh. Anyway.
He comes to a realization.
Okay, thank you. We will play that.
Humans are best when things are at their worst. That's not true. I wish it was true. But what happens when people get afraid is real ugly. They get fearful. That's what happened after 9/11, and it took over. So we come back to fear again, which is the universal human emotion. We're all born afraid. People do really crazy and awful things when they're fearful. Awful things. When the tribe gets threatened, you sit around that campfire that we talked about earlier. And now, the easiest story to tell and the easiest story that people will buy in the tribe is the evil's out there. Beyond the dark. Beyond the...
See, that's the thing. And I love John Carpenter's like interpretation of this. Like most people will like the campfire story of like the evil's out there. I love the evil that's, he was saying, it's here. It's within the people you know. It's in us.
Woods, it's the other. That's what we all bought. That's what everybody bought.
Like, I love a good story. I love a good artsy, whatever. But at the same time, I do like some good, like, just gore or just campy. I love the fact that you can dance around with the comedy and the horror of the horror genre. not a purist. I put out another horror cut with the side cover. Oh shit, that's cool. I need to check that out.
In 2003, the year the United States went to war.
Yeah, 2003. See, this is like what I'm thinking. Like, I graduated high school in 2003, so.
In Iraq, Hollywood producers sensed a new generation of horror films.
That was a big year, and I did not like horror films. My boyfriend of like senior year, all he freaking took me to were horror films, and I hated it. I was so scared. I remember watching the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I am just like so terrified. I'm like, what? How are other people watching this? And I look behind me, and everyone else in the theater are like covering their eyes, or they're so disgusted, they're so scared. And it just, I didn't get it at that time. I do now, and I think that it's better than the original now. But like, I was around during that time when it like came out in theaters, and I got to see it in theaters. Like, it's I still see it as like a fun experience.
Fans and rush to recreate the financial heyday of horror movies.
A lot of businesses are doing it obviously for the business, because it's a movie business, and what's going to make money? Well, if there's a built-in fan base for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, well, they're like, okay, well, if we remake it, we can revitalize a franchise and bring that fan base with it.
In new versions of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Like, this scared the shit out of me. Hey, I graduated high school in 2003. Oh, 3. Yes, cheers. Is around your age. She loved that chainsaw. Shut up, Mike. Fuck off. But honestly, I thought this was fucking terrifying.
Dawn of the Dead and The Hills Have Eyes. The monsters became faster and messier and more sadistic.
And I usually am someone who's like, oh, I like the original better. But when it comes to like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Friday the 13th, I like the remakes.
Than ever before.
I don't believe you're lying. I get it. It's fine.
When we turn on our TV sets and we see what's going on in Iraq, that's even more horrific than a lot of the movies we're seeing.
Yeah, and it was like the beginning of the like torture porn era.
So because of TV and real life, it's sort of upped the ante on the kind of horrific images that filmmakers can show us. They have to come up with scenes that can shock us. When you go to the movies, it has to be something we haven't seen before. It has to be something even more shocking than what's going on in real life.
Yes. I mean, when you think about it, like, where else do you go when it comes to like topping other, you know, the horror of like, you know, genre pasts? I guess it made sense for it to go this way.
It's difficult to shock people today.
It's this saturation of horror movie images into politics, into pop culture. I mean, look at Osama bin Laden. I mean, the ultimate boogeyman of America. And then look at how in recent films, like the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface strikes and then disappears, not to be seen again. It's the Osama bin Laden factor. You know, he was here, he attacked, now he's gone. When is he going to come back? That's a perfect setup for a horror movie sequel, isn't it? The killer came and attacked us. We never got.
That's a bit of a stretch for me, but that's all I'm gonna say. Lorne Butthole. How about the movie musical?
He's still.
Yeah, that's a bit of a reach. I'm glad you kind of agree, Cheddar River.
Out there.
There we go.
The independent feature Saw
Okay, here we go. Beetlebug. I think you went to sleep, but it's your time. There's no horror movie more scary than a naked pedophile on the roof of a dilapidated trailer. Oh yeah, hobbling. Oh hell yeah. Gullible's Travels? Is that a Lorne title for you? That's hilarious.
Kicked off the most successful horror franchise of the decade.
Dr. Gordon. I mean, I thought that the first Saw, holy shit, was revolutionary. I thought it was going to go in a direction it ended up going, unfortunately. Like, I think after 2, it just got so fucking ridiculous.
This is your wake-up call. Your aim in this game is to kill Adam. You have until...
I'm gonna end the stream with your David K video. We've got just a couple more minutes of this, because this ends in like 2009, so we really don't have much longer to go.
6 on the clock to do it.
The Jigsaw Killer acts as a moral judge. But unlike other cinematic serial killers, he gives his victims a choice.
But I feel... you know what? I'm gonna retract what I was... I'm just gonna not say what I was gonna say.
Kill or die.
Hello, man.
When it comes to Saw and social media and attention.
You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play.
Hell yeah, the night is young. Still. For me, as in, I need to take an Advil for my back pain and then go to bed.
If you listen to what he says in the Saw movies, there's a moralistic thing to him, which you're like, wow, I kind of see what he's coming from on that.
Is that what Enter the Codverse came out with today? I've been holding on to it. I haven't watched it yet.
And I think if you would have removed that moralistic thing, Jigsaw would have been nothing. He would have just been a guy named Jigsaw that killed people. But by adding that moralistic thing to him, you understood.
Most people are so ungrateful to be alive. But not you. Not anymore.
Jigsaw was in Saw 1, maybe had 3 minutes of screen time. He had maybe 5 minutes of off-screen, so he wasn't a big character. So we really had to think of Jigsaw as a completely new entity in Saw 2.
Enter the Codverse, they've got some skills.
We haven't been properly introduced. My name's John.
How do you like to be called Jigsaw?
The jigsaw piece I cut from my subjects was only ever meant to be a symbol that subject was missing something. A vital piece of the human puzzle, the survival instinct.
It seems that horror comes back with every social discomfort.
Yes.
And even the horror movies and horror novels that aren't as political today as they were in the 60s, 70s, even the 80s, maybe they will look that way in retrospect. Hostel surely represents political and social aspects of today that maybe we won't recognize until later, but it's a xenophobic film. It's about xenophobia. It's about...
And again, after the latest Blue Call. What's that? What's the Blue Call?
About other countries being the other guy, and they're laughable, you know, you don't take them seriously. They can't possibly be as sophisticated as the young American men who find themselves in Eastern Europe.
It's from Ollie. I go home?
What does that express, other than let's stay here in America and be Americans? You know, it really does reflect some social and political attitudes of the day.
In the face of a trend...
Oh, Guillermo del Toro is It's like a fine Chianti with fava beans.
Toward hyperviolence, some viewers have increasingly turned to foreign films.
Obviously, Guillermo del Toro is one of the most brilliant filmmakers out there now. And what is scarier than The Devil's Backbone, which is a story about wartime and filled with all kinds of symbolism beyond the
And
ghost
like a good amount of his movies are like during war
story.
times. Pan's Labyrinth, top 5 film.
Pan's Labyrinth, another story about war and monsters and other dimensions.
Doug Jones. Doug fucking Jones. You guys have befriended me while when I came into this community. I couldn't stop talking about Doug Jones.
And just filled with gruesome political parable.
The horror movies are now kind of searching for where to go. I think when you get to something like Pan's Labyrinth, you see that there's an avenue that hasn't been taken that's pretty interesting.
There's just so many elements of horror for the fans to appreciate. There's the Italian style, the Spanish style, the German style. There's so much to explore, and that's the great thing about being a horror fan is there's just so many different routes you could take to these dark places.
I don't know what that is. What about the story of Aaron the serial killer? I don't know who that is.
As for those who argue that the American horror movie has run out of ideas, perhaps it has less to do with Hollywood's lack of creativity and with contemporary American culture. The current generation is, in a way, reliving the nightmares of previous generations.
Well, I am gonna say, Carnival of Souls, very terrifying. I think it did okay, because this came out in 2009. There were some good times and some bad times. The horror genre.
On screen and off.
I remember in Vietnam everybody saying, oh, you can't pull out of Vietnam because of the domino theory. All of Southeast Asia will fall to communism if we leave. So we stayed in Vietnam. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. So what was it all about? What we should be doing is getting out of there and protecting our borders and protecting ourselves against what is an almost inevitable attack. I'm afraid in my lifetime and my children's lifetime, I'm going to have to see American cities attacked with nuclear weapons.
When we look at crazy things happening in the world, we think in terms of horror movies. What is happening in the world is what's reflected in our nightmares.
You find the world has changed. You look at Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, love Jethro Tull, the minstrel.
Norma Desmond, the character in that, played by Gloria Swanson, is afraid to leave her
Sunset Boulevard.
house because she's going to see how much the world
I see this as like a horror film too.
has changed since she was a big movie star. And she lives in her own little world. That's a brilliant performance. Well, you just have to embrace that the world has changed. It is what it is.
In these evolving cinematic creations, we continue to see our past and our future. The circumstances that made us who we are, and the fears that determine where we go from here.
Damn, and it ends with The Mist. That's crazy. Okay. Hold up. We are going to end this stream. Oh, my God, I'm so exhausted. But thank you guys for hanging out. I know this is something like very different, but I enjoy doing these every year. It's still so much fun for me because I love talking about horror films and films in general. Like it's a feeding that I crave, and I don't have like a crazy amount of like friends who are like into it, so it's fun for me to like do this and just like geek out. But we are going to close out with Mike Pence's The Haunting of David K. Enjoy the rest of your night. Please be safe. Oh my god, I can't believe it's fucking November in like an hour. But if you guys enjoyed this, yeah, check out my other Halloween streams that I've done. They're super fun, I think. But can't wait to do this again. It sucks, but shut up, Mike Pence. Just stop. It's gonna be great. All right. Stay witchy. Bye.
You still gonna be up for tonight after seeing your girlfriend?
Well,
Go ahead, have a seat.
Appears from this families and children